14, 15 Celsius. Under the cloud and heavy rain around 16 or 17. So a muggy start to Sunday, but some torrential downpours across England and Wales first thing. There could be some disruption. A quieter start to Sunday across Scotland. Some low cloud though, mist and murk across the north and the east. Some drizzle in there too. Best of the sunshine across central and western areas. Quite a cloudy start for Northern Ireland too. Thick enough for some drizzle. But it is across England and Wales where we've got heavy rain and thunderstorms. Some potential disruption first thing, and some brightness across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, but here as we go through the day we'll see some thunderstorms developing. Some longer spells of rain possible for parts of Wales, the West Country as well. So do stay tuned to the forecast as we go through the next 24 hours, as there could be some disruption. Generally staying dry for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Temperatures here cooler than recent days, 17, 18 Celsius. Best of the sunshine, 22 or 23 Celsius towards the east and southeast. And then through into the evening time, those thunderstorms continue. They do also produce some heavy rain across southern and eastern parts of Scotland as we end the day, generally staying dry for Northern Ireland. The outlook is for it to generally remain unsettled, but turning unseasonably cooler as we get towards the middle of next week.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's an incredible. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell and also political commentator Lynn May. Coming up in my niggle, after agreeing to union demands for pay hikes of train drivers and doctors and claiming those with the broadest shoulders would carry the heavier burden.
But I will be honest with you, there is a budget coming in October, and it's going to be painful. We have no other choice, given the situation that we're in. Those with the broadest shoulders should bear the heavier burden.
Keir Starmer finds himself in a bit of a bind with the unions over the removal of pensioners' winter fuel payments. So who is running the Labour Party? Unelected union bosses or our elected Prime Minister, Keir Starmer? In the interview at 23, Big Brother 6 winner Anthony Hutton's life changed for good, taking home a whopping £50,000 prize. His cheeky and charming personality captivated viewers, but all that glitters isn't gold. And Anthony found himself down a dark path of drugs and alcohol. He'll be here to tell us his story. Then it's all gone very quiet on the Labour bench's dodgy landlord, Jaz Athwal. The biggest landlord in the Commons broke his own licensing rules and his flats were infested with damp and rats. But nothing from the Labour Party. Where's Keir Starmer's swift justice when you need it? And a young man finds himself in what looks like a tidal sewer. But what happens next? Before we get started, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. Sir Keir Starmer has arrived to meet his Irish counterpart Simon Harris as part of a commitment to reset relations between the UK and Ireland. The pair are in Dublin this afternoon and will sit down with business leaders across the country. And it's expected that trade across the Irish Sea will be top of their agenda, with that relationship worth an estimated €100 billion every year, as well as supporting thousands of jobs.
It's a pleasure to be here, to have this opportunity, which we will take, to renew the friendship between our countries. That reset, I think, can be meaningful, it can be deep. Of course, it covers the relationship between our two countries. Obviously, it has to cover the Good Friday Agreement, and I take very seriously our joint role in relation to that, and I've been very clear about that for many, many years, and renew that commitment here today. And the wider EU reset.
Well, in other news, police searching for a British man in Mallorca, in the same area where a British woman was found dead earlier this week, have found a body. The Spanish Civil Guard have said they believe the pair had been swept away in a flash flood after a storm hit the Mediterranean island on Tuesday. Emergency services have been searching the area since Wednesday after they rescued 10 hikers and recovered the body of a 26-year-old woman. A woman in her 60s and her dog have both died following a collision with a taxi while out walking in Kent. Officers attended the scene last night, along with South East Coast Ambulance Service, but the woman and her dog died at the scene. In other news, a Royal Navy serviceman who was killed when a helicopter made a deliberate emergency landing over the Channel on Wednesday has been named as Lieutenant Rodri Lation. 3 people were on board the Merlin Mk4 during a night exercise when it ditched off the Dorset coastline, killing the 31-year-old. A statement from Rodri's family described him as talented, passionate, strong and loyal. It said, "We'll always have him in our hearts, our wonderful boy." The SNP has called on the Prime Minister to U-turn on plans to cut winter fuel payments. Research has shown that close to 1 million pensioners in Scotland received the payments between 2022 and last year. But under new Labour plans, 87% of those would lose that financial support. Now, more heavy rain is expected across the UK today, with many still at risk of flooding. The Met Office has said a new band of heavy and thundery rain will arrive on the south coast today and will make its way north overnight. Britain's Jack Draper has crashed out of the US Open after being sick 4 times during his semi-final match. The British #1 had hoped to emulate the likes of Andy Murray and Emma Raducanu by taking the title, but was ultimately beaten by Yannick Sinner. Draper cited issues with anxiety as the reason for his exit from the competition, describing it as the worst feeling ever.
I had chances here and there and I didn't take them, and obviously when you play the best players in the world you need to do that. And yeah, I obviously wasn't feeling my best and struggled at certain periods of the match, especially towards the end. But you know, Yannick beat me fair and square. He was too strong for me today.
And in around a couple of hours' time, England will take on Ireland in the UEFA Nations League. And this will be the first test for England's interim manager, Lee Carsley, following Gareth Southgate stepping down after defeat in the Euro finals this summer. Carsley has faced criticism after he said he won't sing the national anthem during that game, although the former Ireland player says he's respectful of the concept. Elsewhere in the competition, Wales faced a goalless draw last night against Turkey, and on Thursday night, Scotland suffered a 3-2 defeat to Poland, whilst Northern Ireland beat Luxembourg 2-0. And it's been another brilliant day for Team GB so far at the Paralympics. We started the morning on 100 medals, and that number has now grown once again with a further 3 golds, 2 silver and 2 bronze for the British team, including a win for Finlay Graham in the men's C13 road race. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Right, welcome to GB News, 7 minutes after 3 o'clock. Coming up, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has been meeting the Taoiseach, or Simon Harris, or the Prime Minister. He's working hard to reset relations with his union neighbours and bolster ties with the trading bloc. Joining me in the Irish capital with 3 lions, but has the new manager already got himself in hot water? England boss Lee Carsley says he will not sing the national anthem before their Nations League tie with the Republic of Ireland. I'll also be joined by royal biographer Angela Levin, joins me live. We'll be looking at how the UK is commemorating this 2-year anniversary of the Queen's death. And for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should parents be punished for the crimes of their children? It is violent crime committed by under-18s has gone up by 22% since the pandemic. Is it time for parents to take more responsibility? That's coming up in the next hour. Don't forget, some of your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/yoursay. Right, so Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is in Dublin today to meet the Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris. The pair will discuss resetting UK's Irish relations. Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn hails a new chapter between the two nations. So is Keir Starmer trying to get Britain closer to the EU. Joining me, political commentator Peter Spencer. Peter Spencer, thank you for joining me. Right, let's talk about it. He's in Ireland, Keir Starmer. What do you think his plan is?
Well, of course he wants to reset and improve trade relations with the European Union. Remember, what he's doing today is all part of the same charm offensive as he did a few days ago when he did his away days in France and Germany. Half our trade, our export trade, is with European Union countries. 4 years ago, we told the European Union to do one, basically, and flounced off. And so since then, relations have been pretty frosty, which haven't done a great deal for trade. That said, credit where it's due, Rishi Sunak did a pretty good job in trying to repair things, but he was stuck with a legacy of Boris Johnson and the Brexit deal. And what we have today is Keir Starmer trying to consolidate that improvement in relations. And of course, there's a particular sensitivity in Ireland, because remember, 100 years ago, they gained their independence from England, from Britain, I should say, by force of arms. And then after that, of course, there was the partition of Ireland, and the 6 counties which formed part of Ulster remained part of the United Kingdom, and that led to a great many complications. And indeed, the government in the north of Ireland, Stormont, was collapsed for 2 years because of the fact that the trading arrangements did not meet their requirements.
You see, this is the thing, because you've got the border in the Irish Sea. You've got the fact that some parts of Ireland will benefit from being in the EU, whereas the bit is outside the EU. Keir Starmer's not going to be able to do anything really about all of that unless he rejoins the EU, which, even though he has this wonderful 158-seat majority, that would be kind of breaching the British public's trust, because we had a democratic mandate via a referendum that we all voted for. Do you feel that perhaps Keir Starmer might try and sort of get us back into the EU?
I don't think he'd have the cojones to go quite that far, to be honest. But I do think that he would like to oil wheels wherever possible. And indeed, as you rightly say, we had a democratic referendum and the majority was in favour of leaving the European Union a few years back. But that majority was wafer thin, and in subsequent years, there is huge polling evidence of buyer's remorse. So I think in Starmer trying to improve relations and improve ties and stitch them up a little bit more tightly, I think he'd be pushing it pretty much an open door when it comes to public opinion.
Well, we watch and wait with bated breath to see what he actually does. I would say it's unwise for him to think that he could try and sort of get past the British public and try and skim in this sort of the backdoor EU deal, but we shall see. Thank you very much. Peter Spencer, really good to talk to you. Well, joining Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer in Dublin is the Three Lions England manager Lee Carsley, who announced that he will not sing the national anthem at his first game, leading the team against Ireland later today. Previously, he played 40 times for Ireland. Will be leading the England senior team for the first time ever. But has he gotten off to a very bad start? And what's the point of having a manager for a country like England who's not prepared to then be, well, in a sense, nationalistic? You're leading England. Joining us now, sports broadcaster and journalist Aidan McGee. Aidan, what on earth is going on? Why would you even admit that?
Well, I don't think it was a case of admission, Nana. He was asked it in a press conference last night. I think it was a written briefing off the main press conference. So he wouldn't have seen it coming. In fact, it would have hit him straight in the middle of the eyes. There would have been no briefing from the FA. And he got a rude awakening as to what being England manager is all about. He's only managed really at representative levels, at underage levels, and a couple of interim jobs at a caretaker basis at a couple of league clubs. So I wouldn't suggest that he was expecting it. He probably hadn't framed his answer. But you know what? I don't think it's a major problem. I mean, there are lots of England players who don't sing the national anthem. We saw that last summer at the Euros. When we think of the England managers in the past, I'm not sure all of them have sung the national anthem. And I don't think they will necessarily in future. Lee Carsley himself said that he didn't even sing the national anthem. While he respects the concept, he didn't sing the national anthem when he was playing for the Republic of Ireland. As you say, he had 40 caps. He played in the World Cup for them. It's down to one's own prerogative.
Well, there's one minor detail that you've omitted. They are playing Ireland. Do you know what I mean? It does sort of look.
Well, there's the problem though, Nana, because this fixture has had an intense history, an incendiary history at some point, especially in 1995 when the England fans rioted in Dublin at the old Lansdowne Road. So picture this scenario. If he goes in there tonight, and we know the history between the two countries, not just on the football pitch, but away from the football pitch, far outside of the sphere of football. But if he goes in there, 50,000 fans at the Aviva Stadium, and then starts bellowing out with his hand on his chest the English national anthem, I think that can antagonise the home fans. Don't forget, Declan Rice is already going back there tonight, having snubbed Ireland. Jack Grealish too. There are several other English players tonight who have Irish connections who could have played for Ireland but chose not to. And so, from a security perspective, it might be a wise thing to do. Having said that, by saying that, I'm kind of intimating there's been some planning gone into this. That wasn't the case. This hit the England manager between the eyes last night.
He's sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, to be fair to him, because he should sing it if you are managing England. However, if he does sing it when they're playing Ireland, they may think, well, he's a bit of a traitor, really, sort of thing, you know, because there's a bit of... But then he is, anyway, in their eyes, potentially, because he's the manager for England.
Yeah, look, you're absolutely right. But the point is that, you know, I don't think too many England fans will care about this because, you know, Jack Charlton was manager of, you know, the Republic of Ireland between 1985 and 1996, a hugely celebrated figure within English football because he won the World Cup in '66. And with his connections to his brother Bobby and everything like that. And also, he was the most successful manager the Republic of Ireland ever had. He managed to cross that divide. I don't recall him singing the national anthem while he was the Republic of Ireland manager. And I know he's not officially, in football terms, he was English, but nonetheless, nobody ever held that against him. And the key thing, Nano, is that he got results on the pitch. If Lee Carsley gets results like tonight and in future on the pitch and gets the job, nobody will care a jot about this press conference last night.
All right, so what do you think the score will be?
It's usually a draw when England play Ireland, so I'm going to go for 0-0.
0-0. I'm going to go for 1-0 to England. Aidan McGee, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is Aidan McGee. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, feral children. Should parents be punished for the crimes of their children? It's as a report reveals children getting arrested for committing violent crime has gone up by 22% since the pandemic. But next, what do you think? England manager, should he have to sing the national anthem? This is GB News.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
What prompted you to go on your incredible journey?
Well, you know, I was fighting my own demons at the time, you know, before I started the walk, and it had been a long journey, if you like. And, you know, I knew that I needed to make a change, and my daughter had just flown the nest. I was a single parent before this, and previous to that, I was ex-parachute regiment. And I knew that I needed to make a change, because if I didn't, I'm not sure where I would have been now, if that makes sense. So, yeah, something just came into my head at the very end of July and said, look, go and walk the UK coastline. And that's exactly what I did. And 6 years later, we've just finished.
You met your missus on the journey as well, didn't you? So truly, Chris, a transformative journey for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, you step into the unknown like that, you know, you have no idea how things are going to work out. You go out with so little expectation, but only really with the aim to, you know, for me personally, to come back feeling a lot better than what I was before I left. And that certainly succeeded. So everything that happened along that journey was one big learning curve. And I got to learn a lot about myself, a lot about, you know, the public and people. And yeah, it was just a life-changing transformation for me. And, you know, I learned so much, and I know what I want to do with the rest of my life as a result of it. And I met the most amazing people, and, you know, worked hard. 6 years of carrying your house on your back isn't the easiest feat in the world, I can promise you that, but it was worth every single step, because, I rescued a dog along the way. I met my now fiancée, Kate Barron, along the way, and we had a baby together along the way as well. So to start in the position that I did and then end up with all of that coming over the line with me was just something that I never expected, and I couldn't have dreamed it up, to be honest.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, 19 minutes after 3 o'clock. Welcome. If you just tuned in, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. We're live on TV, online and digital radio. It's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should the England manager sing the national anthem? Now, after the Euros, the final, the boss, the loss of the departure of the lovely Gareth Southgate, waistcoat Southgate, England's interim manager, Lee Carsley, will take charge of the game against the Republic of Ireland later. But is his tenure over before it's already started? He's announced that he will not sing the national anthem before the game leading to the team against Ireland later. He is, in fact, Irish, which is a major point with this. So, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should the England manager sing the national anthem in their game against Ireland? Right, joining me now, former Conservative advisor Charlie Rowley and human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Peter Tatchell, I'll come to you first. What do you think? What kind of a story is this? What do you think?
Well, I don't think it matters whether he sings the national anthem or not. What's important is he boosts England to win the game. That's the most important thing. And, of course, in the run-up to the start of the game, he has to be absolutely laser-focused on what the team needs to do. He doesn't need the distraction of the national anthem. So I support his decision. Also, we should note that historically, when he played for Ireland, he never sang the Irish national anthem. He was focused on the game. So he said he has to focus on the game, not the song.
But that's easy for him to say. But then some fans might look at that and go, oi, you are the England manager. So even if you didn't, because he was a player then, so as a player you could sort of probably fudge not singing the national anthem. But as a manager, you know, you want a sense of patriotism, surely, Charlie?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, look, you know, England for a long time have wanted to sort of win, whether it's the Euros, whether it's the World Cup. You know, you've got so close within touching distance over the last sort of couple of years. I think you want someone who... It don't necessarily have to be an English manager, because we've obviously had Sven-Göran Eriksson, we've had Fabio Capello, Sweden, Italian. You know, I can't remember whether they sang the English national anthem or not. I don't think it would matter, because it ultimately, what Peter is saying, it comes down to results. We want to win the games. But I think it does show in his interview just the pressure that the England manager faces and kind of the questions that you will be faced in that kind of sort of pressure cooker role. Probably only, well, some describe it as the second most pressured job to being Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, I think, because the whole nation is relying on you to do so well and wanting you to win. But for what it's worth, I don't think he'll be there for that long. I think he's just the interim.
This is probably the death knell after doing that, especially against Ireland. And also, what are your thoughts on... I don't know whether they'll be taking the knee on this. I doubt it. But where do you sit with taking the knee, Charlie?
I mean, in my world, in my, you know... it's not something that, you know, I would do. You know, I treat everybody equally. I treat everybody fairly. I don't necessarily feel the need to, you know, that is how I live my life. You know, I will defend anybody that feels that they're being sort of a target or oppressed or where there's inequality. That is just how I will go about my life. So I don't need to take the knee for a particular cause or individual or do anything that over-demonstrates that I'm committed to a particular... But that is just how I live my life, fairly, equally, and with respect to everybody. So, you know, each to their own. Obviously, if it's a cause that people obviously want to draw attention to, that is a matter for them, but it's not something that I would
Peter Tatchell, your thoughts, your stance on that?
Going back to Lee Carsley, just one point. He has made the point very clearly that he respects both national anthems and the right of people to sing it. He's totally behind the English team. I don't think we should roast him just because of this stance about the anthem. On taking the knee, it's been done a lot, and I've always supported it, but I think it's become a bit ritualistic now. And I think there's also a very good argument that there should be other symbols taken for disabled people, for women, for LGBTs, for a whole raft of different people.
We could go on forever,
we could. But the issue I have with the Premier League is the blanket ban on women players. I think it's absolutely wrong for the FA to say that women are not allowed to play in any English registered teams that are for men. I think players should be selected based on merit, not their sex. And I think, you know, that it's very unlikely there is a woman player who would be up to the mark, but it might be possible. And I don't think they should be automatically excluded. I think that's sexist discrimination. And I think we want the best players in our teams. And, you know, this policy has been enforced even at very local level. One club was fined for they were short of a player and they let a woman player play for their side, and they got fined by the FA. That was terrible. Yeah,
but that opens the door for things to be the other way around. So if you're saying that, OK, yeah, that's really terrible that a woman can't play in the men's league and a man can't play in the women's league, which actually I agree with, because I think this is about bodies, it's about safeguarding, it's about safety. And obviously men are considerably stronger than women, and this is about power and strength. This isn't about sexism. This is simply about the physicality and the anatomy and physiology of a man.
Yeah, but so, each individual player should be assessed on their strength and their merit, not on their gender.
Who's got time for that? That's not realistic, Peter. And also, it protects women, because what that does is stop men from then going, oh, I'm going to just join the women's now.
Oh, no, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
But you can't do one and then not the other. Surely you're after equality.
No, the Premier League is the #1 football league in this country. It's the top players. I think if there was a woman who met the criterion, who had the strength, the skills, the talent, they should not be automatically excluded by the FA
They're not being excluded because otherwise it opens the door the other way around. Can you not see that once you've done that, you can't then say, oh, yeah, but no men can play in the women's game? Charlie?
Well, just to balance, because I think in the Premier League you do have female officials, women officials, referees, assistant referees, because obviously, they are able to, obviously keep up at the pace. They're running the line. It's not necessarily running diagonally in football, which you do, which actually takes up a lot more time and effort on the pitch. I did my FA badges a few years ago.
Really?
And I was a football referee myself. But no female, because of the biology, it is just a pure and simple fact that when it comes to the biology, you will always have a male player that will always be stronger physically, quicker, and therefore a woman in a biologically
I think
woman
that's an interesting assumption, not backed by evidence.
Well, she would never
is
make
backed
the
by
cut
evidence, actually.
in a team of men.
I think it's putting down women.
It's not putting down
talented women.
No, you're confusing gender reality and biology with an ideology, and it's all very well.
No.
You can have this ideological stance that everyone should be equal, everyone can do, but then reality kicks in, and the reality is that women are biologically different from men, and that biology means that in certain sports, like boxing, you should not have men in boxing. I don't care what anyone says. There is no way a man can punch 2.6 times harder than a woman in general.
That's a different issue. We're saying about opening up the Premier League and indeed other leagues to talented women who meet the criteria.
To play against men, though.
Who have the strength.
To play against men.
Yeah. If they want to, no compulsion.
So would you close the door the other way around then? So men...
Yes, I would. I would.
But how could you do it one way?
Well, because the Premier League is very different from any of the women's leagues.
What we should be doing is spending our time celebrating the Women's Premier League, where you're seeing thousands of more fans going to celebrate women in football and putting that up the agenda, who are actually our lionesses are more successful than our...
I agree.
So we should be concentrating
Salute the lionesses,
there are girls and women in football, and they have that, and they are the best in the world. We should be championing that, celebrating that, giving that more attention.
But if not the Premier League, what about the lower leagues, the local leagues, where there's a ban on women?
Women and girls, I don't think so. I mean, I think they stop mixing them at about 14, age 14. So look, this is a biological reality for women that we're somewhat different to men. And when it comes to certain sports, there is no reason as to why we should then all say, try and pretend that reality doesn't exist.
Well, I can tell you there's quite a few women I know who are stronger than me.
Yeah, but
I'm a bit of a flyweight, I admit. But there are women who are stronger
than you, Peter.
You probably are.
So is Tatiana. She's stronger than you. I've seen her do her crunches with the barbells. But look, it's not
Let's not generalise. Don't generalise.
No, you have to. Reality, Peter. It's all very well saying let's not generalise. We're women, and men and women are different, and it's OK, and there's nothing wrong with that. But once you acknowledge the biological reality, stop trying to then say, we should all be doing exactly the same thing just to open the door for women. I think that's quite divisive, Peter.
Well,
you know that.
No, there's no compulsion proposed.
No, because it opens the door to men.
Purely voluntary.
Have you heard the park runs? The park runs where men can go into the women's category.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
Yeah, but this is the door that you're opening. This is the Pandora's box that you suddenly open. Yeah. It's the same thing.
Allowing women to participate in the top flight game, or even the local levels, the junior leagues,
women, though.
That would be fine.
But against women, not against men, and not in men's...
There would be men that just would not feel comfortable wanting to play in this team or against a woman in an opposing football team because...
They'd be worried about hurting them. Peter, there are men out there who are really chivalrous, who would not want to play against a woman. They would not want to tackle a woman. They'd be worried about hurting them.
Right.
Well, all I can say is when that football team allowed a woman to participate because they were short of a man and they got fined by the FA...
Yes, absolutely.
The woman in that team did well, performed well, wasn't injured, and the male players saluted her and said she was a fine player.
Lovely, and that's a lovely little story to end on. Back in the real world, Peter, no woman in their right mind would want to play against a bunch of men, and most men in their right minds wouldn't play against women simply for fear of potentially hurting them, because we are all aware that men are considerably biologically stronger than women in most cases. Peter Tatchell, thank you very much. Charlie Peter. I almost called you Charlie Peters there. Charlie Rowley. I was with him yesterday.
You do
have a similarity, actually, to be fair. But that's my panel. They will be back very shortly. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online, and on digital radio. 31 minutes after 3 o'clock. Next, we'll be going ahead behind the palace walls with Angela 11. But first, here are your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you and good afternoon. The top stories this hour. Sir Keir Starmer has met with his Irish counterpart Simon Harris this afternoon as part of a commitment to reset relations between the UK and Ireland. They're now sitting down with business leaders from around the country, with trade across the Irish Sea expected to be top of their agenda, with that relationship worth an estimated €100 billion every year, as well as supporting thousands of jobs. This is what Sir Keir had to say about the relationship between the two countries.
It's a pleasure to be here, to have this opportunity, which we will take, to renew the friendship between our countries. That reset, I think, can be meaningful, it can be deep. Of course, it covers the relationship between our two countries. Obviously, it has to cover the Good Friday Agreement, and I take very seriously our joint role in relation to that, and I've been very clear about that for many, many years, and renew that commitment here today. And the wider EU reset.
In other news, a Royal Navy serviceman who was killed when a helicopter made a deliberate emergency landing over the Channel on Wednesday has been named as Lieutenant Rodri Lation. 3 people were on board the Merlin Mk4 during a night exercise when it ditched off the Dorset coastline, killing the 31-year-old. A statement from Rodri's family described him as talented, passionate, strong and loyal. It also said, "We'll always have him in our hearts, our wonderful boy." Police searching for a British man in Mallorca, in the same area where a British woman was found dead earlier this week, have found a body. The Spanish Civil Guard have said they believe the pair had been swept away in a flash flood after a storm hit the Mediterranean island on Tuesday. Emergency services have been searching the area near the mountains since Wednesday. And later today, England will take on Ireland in the UEFA Nations League. This will be the first test for England's interim manager, Lee Carsley, following Gareth Southgate stepping down after defeat in the Euros final this summer. Carsley has faced criticism after he said he won't sing the national anthem tonight, although the former Ireland player says he's respectful of the concept. Elsewhere in the competition, Wales faced a goalless draw last night against Turkey, and on Thursday night, Scotland lost 3-2 to Poland, and Northern Ireland beat Luxembourg 2-0. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's turning increasingly unsettled yet again across England and Wales. Some heavy showers, some thunderstorms developing, and just turning a little chillier as well. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, bringing this unsettled weather right through Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday as well. And that showery rain is also affecting coastal areas already this evening, but as we head into the early hours, it becomes more widespread across England and Wales and pushes northwards. Torrential downpours possible, a Met Office warning out for heavy rain, but drier across parts of Northern Ireland, northern and western Scotland. Some clear spells here overnight. Temperatures 14-15 Celsius. Under the cloud and heavy rain around 16 or 17. So a muggy start to Sunday, but some torrential downpours across England and Wales first thing. There could be some disruption. A quieter start to Sunday across Scotland. Some low cloud though, mist and murk across the north and the east. Some drizzle in there too. Best of the sunshine across central and western areas. Quite a cloudy start for Northern Ireland too. Thick enough for some drizzle. But it is across England and Wales where we've got heavy rain and thunderstorms. Some potential disruption first thing, and some brightness across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, but here as we go through the day we'll see some thunderstorms developing. Some longer spells of rain possible for parts of Wales, the West Country as well. So do stay tuned to the forecast as we go through the next 24 hours, as there could be some disruption. Generally staying dry for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Temperatures here cooler than recent days, 17, 18 Celsius. Best of the sunshine, 22 or 23 Celsius towards the east and southeast. And then through into the evening time, those thunderstorms continue. They do also produce some heavy rain across southern and eastern parts of Scotland as we end the day, generally staying dry for Northern Ireland. The outlook is for it to generally remain unsettled, but turning unseasonably cooler as we get towards the middle of next week.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, where have you been? I know it's early, it's fine, 36 minutes after 3. Glad to have your company. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are the People's Channel. But there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. And every Saturday, I love to give you a rundown. And who better to do so than royal biographer Angela Levin. Angela, welcome. Really good to talk to you. So it's been 2 years since the death of our late Queen.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? It seems to have gone past very quickly, but also very slowly, isn't it? And I remember that just before she died, she was very, very unhappy and very much in pain. But Prince Charles, as he was then, made her come to the welcome to the Jubilee, because he said that there were loads and loads of people, and she thought that they would be against her, but they weren't. And she did get dressed in green, and she came along, and that made her very happy. It was very sweet, I think, as did the drink with the Paddington Bear tea, which she did despite feeling in enormous pain. They both had honey on their bread. She had her handbag and he spilt the cup, and it was just very funny. It was one of the nicest things of the whole thing. And that was lovely. So it was a shame that the two people who did upset her very much was Harry and Meghan, ringing her, being unkind, doing films and books that were very unkind. And she'd lost her husband nearly 2 years ago before. Yeah. So she really sank after that because they'd been so close. And you could see it happening. And I think it was very cruel because they knew that she had cancer of the bones. And
do we know that they definitely knew about it?
Yes, because all the royal family were told about it well before. They didn't leak it, but they did know it, and a little courtesy would have been accepted.
Well, I thought it was old age that she died of ultimately.
No.
So it was definitely that?
Yes, it was definitely that.
Oh.
And the old age didn't help. I mean, my goodness. I think she just got very fed up with the whole thing. She couldn't manage it.
Well, you'd lose the will to live, I suppose, in the end, all the horribleness that had happened over the last few years, especially the issues with Harry and Meghan, which really could not have helped at all.
No, they didn't help her. She was very, very unhappy, and that's why Prince William, of course, is very annoyed. That's one of the reasons. But what's
Harry
nice...
wants an apology.
Yeah, yes, you won't get it.
How can you forget all of that and what the pressure that would have put on the Queen, and then they'd still be demanding some sort of...
But if you're only focusing on yourself, then that's very easy. You know, you wipe out other people's issues. But what's very nice is that there's going to be an enormous garden for the Queen that's going to be ready in 2026. I have pictures on there. I hope you have them. And on Tuesday, they'd put in 300 plants, 300 flowers, to see that, to show what they're going to put. It'll be free to go in there, and it'll be absolutely beautiful, really, to see.
That's lovely. So where will it be?
In, is this St John's Wood?
Oh, so near St James's Park?
Yes, no, not near St James's Park. Near Swiss Cottage and Finchley.
So central London, around
Central London, and it'll be absolutely lovely. And they're trying an example of making these plants with earth and concrete.
That's lovely.
Actually, there's a new way of doing it.
We should do a video, you and me, Angela. We should go and visit it and do what little thing for GB News.
Well, I'm the first one who's got it. I managed to find out about it, and they sent me the pictures. No one else has got them. And I said that I'd like to follow it every so often to see how it's coming along without anybody else. And they said, actually, that is so exciting, thank you. So if you want to come with me,
I would love to. We'll do
that's lovely. These ones are not actually her favourite, the Queen's favourite, because they want to test on what's going on. But it will be by 2026.
Now, what about this story? Friends and those close to Meghan have said that on her behalf, that she regrets how she exited the royal family.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
How much credibility can we have?
Grazia magazine said she deeply regrets how she behaved towards the royals, and she's very sorry about saying that they were racist.
Wow, that's an actual admission, those
that's
words?
An actual admission, yes, in quotes, but I don't know if I believe it. And I couldn't get through to them to answer. They wouldn't answer that question. And but in any case, it's much too late, isn't it? Everybody's learnt that that was nonsense, and it's no longer listened to. But it was very, very cruel. And I think the Queen, who'd heard that, was very painful for her, because the one thing she wasn't was racist in any way or any form.
Well, obviously, Meghan isn't here to defend herself on that, and the magazine you couldn't speak to confirm that is a true thing. But it is interesting that something like
but what is true about Meghan is that her trademark has been refused. They think it's been very carelessly done, and this America Riviera orchard, which you like saying so much, and I can't remember, she's not allowed to use that because a part of the area is that, and she can't own an area.
Of course not.
It's not accepted. So it's very interesting that they think it's been done very carelessly, and you'd think that when you want to do such a big deal, you start with doing that first, and then you send 50 jam jars away. But you don't do it before you've got everything sorted.
Never do that.
No.
Now, what about this? This is a big story, I think. Harry being dropped out of the Councillors of State, which means for the first time he can't actually take over paperwork or take over a visit for the King, so he can't.
This is absolutely true, because it's up on the royal website, and he dropped out of the Councillors of State, and they're the people.
He's been dropped. He didn't drop out. They dropped him.
No, they dropped him because they come in if you need papers signed. Or if you need something to be somewhere, if they're not well or they're out of the country. So far, we've seen, despite the King's illness, and he's getting much better, the Queen said, yes, that, you know, he's not needed anybody. But this is true, and it's approved by Parliament, and that's it. Now, the interesting thing is that Beatrice has gone on at the last one. It's always to do with hierarchy. So they've done all the hierarchy, but no sign of Harry. And this is, I think, their slow way of actually pushing him out, because he wants to have a home here in Windsor, and that would mean he could be a Councillor of State, because you have to have a home in this country.
Yes,
but now, even if he gets it, he won't be on the list.
This is very
It's very sad. It's very, yes.
Yeah.
Quietly, they haven't said anything, they don't argue with him, they just get on. And a lot of them are very busy and doing all sorts of things, and they don't actually get too upset, because I think you have to close your mind about it. And let's hope he'll learn. He's 40 on the 15th of September, so he should get a load of money from the late Queen Mother, and so perhaps he'll be a nicer man.
Perhaps you can go away and just be quiet now. Until 11, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. Right, next, I'll be joined by Ken Hines, an anti-knife campaigner in the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking if parents should be punished for their kids breaking the law.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Stay-at-home dads, good or bad?
I personally think when you just have a baby, your hormones are all over the place, you're breastfeeding, to go back to work, I feel personally it's a big old thing. And I think babies really need their mums. On the other side, if a stay-at-home dad was a stay-at-home dad for years, I would also say, well, come on now, the children are in school. What's the issue? Why can't you go back to work?
It's really interesting because my husband's been a stay-at-home dad for 6 months and is working part-time. We both work part-time now. And that was always the choice that we were going to make. And it's been the best thing ever for my family. My husband and my daughter have the most incredible bond. He's much more practical, playful, and a better problem solver than me.
I mean, the problem I see, Annette, with all of this is that you do get a lot of women who say, we don't want the stereotype, we don't like the stereotypes. And when men say, well, actually, I want to be the parent staying at home and looking after the child, it's frowned upon. So you can't have it both ways.
I wouldn't say that's a long-term stay-at-home dad. And also, we're talking about actually dads should look after their children, and we shouldn't be praising them and say, oh, they're underappreciated for changing a nappy. That's their duty.
I think it takes real guts as a man to decide that you're going to give up those things that society deems so highly, even if it's for a short time.
Why is it then, Annette, that you say your dads should go back to work?
I read an article about a dad who was a stay-at-home dad for 15 years, pursuing his hobbies and fitness and all that. Now, I just don't think that's fair.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. 48 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And it's time for the second Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should parents be punished for the crimes of their children? And this is as GB News presenter Camilla Tominey writes in The Telegraph that feral children and their feckless parents are leaving the rest of us living in fear. She argues an undeniable rot has taken over the country since lockdown, with the number of under-18s arrested for all offences rising by 9% in a year, and it's up by 16% since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, with a 22% increase in arrests for violent crime. So, what do you think for the Great British Debate this hour? I'm asking, should parents be punished for the crimes of their children? Well, joining me now, anti-knife crime campaigner Ken Hines. Ken, welcome. Right, Ken, what do you think to this? Surely this is a good plan.
Nana, I've been working with children and their parents for many years, and I'm in agreement that there's a minority of parents that should be punished for the acts of their children. But in the vast majority of cases, I find that the parents are reaching out to people like myself to actually help in trying to talk to their children, to try to get them to be better citizens. But personally, it's like a losing position I'm working from, because we've got to work with the schools has got to take responsibility, and above all, society has got to take responsibility. Because when we give children so much rights, but without teaching them about accountability and responsibility, it's not surprising we are where we are today.
All right, Ken Hines, it's short and brief, but thank you for your thoughts, very much needed on the conversation. Joining me now to discuss further, political commentator Lynn May, who was my initial panel member. She was late. We'll dock it out of your wages. And human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. She thinks I'm joking. Lynn May, I'll start with you.
I know you will. I do think, like the activist and campaigner said, I think there is a minority of parents that should be held accountable. As we were just discussing previously, the case in America where Colin, the father, is now being charged with second-degree murder because his son shot 4 people in a school, 2 students and 2 teachers. And there was evidence there to show that he actually gave his son the AK-47.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And why on God's green earth would you give a 14-year-old AK-47 is beyond me.
Well, why a 14-year-old or anyone should be allowed to own an AK-47?
Exactly. And I think, yes, if there are cases where parents have actively reached out to social services, reached out to the police, I'm concerned about my child's behaviour, then no, because they're actively trying to do something. But if they're not, and their behaviour is akin to the violence that their child is exhibiting, then yes, they should be held responsible.
Peter Tatchell.
I think the principle of guilt by association is a very bad and dangerous one.
Really?
Yeah, parents should not be held responsible if they had no understanding, recognition or awareness of what their child was going to do. But if, for example, they knew that their son had a zombie knife or a gun and failed to act, then, of course, they should be held responsible.
But how do you... So, for example, my kids will never, ever have a zombie knife or anything like that because I'll be on them. I'll be the first person that they will have to deal with before they even step outside the door. My kids are incredibly well-behaved and Mummy doesn't take any nonsense, and they know that. So these parents are not doing their jobs and other people are suffering. Why should they not be able to account?
Well, if a parent has a child who goes out and stabs someone and they had no knowledge of that stabbing or no knowledge the child had a knife, I don't think you can hold the parent responsible.
Well, what does that tell you about the kind of parent they are?
Well, some kids will hide their knives and their parents will not have any knowledge. Well, it would be very wrong to hold a parent responsible. But if the parent knew they had a knife and failed to act...
Peter, I think that's a part of the problem, though. We're seeing a change in parenting style where when I used to come in from school... And if I even had something like a top on that didn't belong to me, my mother was like, where did you get that from? OK, let's see what's in your bag. Have you got anything else that I didn't buy you for, you know? And there's that lack of real parenting to know what's in your children's rooms. Of course, privacy, but I don't believe in complete privacy. You're under my roof. I want to know what's going on in your life. And we're seeing so many now, as soon as the kids come in from school, they go up in their room, they close the door. You know, that's not acceptable.
I agree, parents need to take responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, I had a very strict upbringing.
Exactly.
It's actually been to my benefit. I'd like to see it for other kids as well. As we heard, you know, we need responsibility as well as opportunity to do things.
Right, Peter Tatchell, Lynn May, thank you very much. Stay with me. Next, my niggle, Nana's niggle. How the Labour Party have given out bumper pay rises, capitulating to the unions. They claim ending strikes. Is this for the best? Who's in charge of this country? Is it the Labour Party or is it the trade unions? That's my niggle. Is on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts. Post your comments. gbnews.com/your say. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's turning increasingly unsettled yet again across England and Wales. Some heavy showers, some thunderstorms developing and just turning a little chillier as well. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, bringing this unsettled weather right through Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday as well. And that showery rain is also affecting coastal areas already this evening. But as we head into the early hours, it becomes more widespread across England and Wales and pushes northwards. Torrential downpours possible, and Met Office warning out for heavy rain, but drier across parts of Northern Ireland, northern and western Scotland. Some clear spells here overnight. Temperatures 14-15 Celsius. Under the cloud and heavy rain around 16 or 17. So a muggy start to Sunday, but some torrential downpours across England and Wales first thing. There could be some disruption. A quieter start to Sunday across Scotland. Some low cloud though, mist and murk across the north and the east. Some drizzle in there too. Best of the sunshine across central and western areas. Quite a cloudy start for Northern Ireland too. Thick enough for some drizzle. But it is across England and Wales where we've got heavy rain and thunderstorms. Some potential disruption first thing. And some brightness across parts of East Anglia and the southeast. But here, as we go through the day, we'll see some thunderstorms developing. Some longer spells of rain possible for parts of Wales, the West Country as well. So do stay tuned to the forecast as we go through the next 24 hours, as there could be some disruption. Generally staying dry for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Temperatures here cooler than recent days, 17-18 Celsius. Best of the sunshine, 22 or 23 Celsius towards the east and southeast. And then through into the evening time, those thunderstorms continue. They do also produce some heavy rain across southern and eastern parts of Scotland as we end the day, generally staying dry for Northern Ireland. The outlook is for it to generally remain unsettled, but turning unseasonably cooler as we get towards the middle of next week.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the good luck.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 4 o'clock. This is GB News live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Look up, Peter. and political commentator Lynn May. Coming up in my niggle, after agreeing to union demands for pay hikes for train drivers and doctors and claiming those with the broadest shoulders will carry the heaviest burden.
But I will be honest with you, there is a budget coming in October, and it's going to be painful. We have no other choice, given the situation that we're in. Those with the broadest shoulders should bear the heavier burden.
Pensioners. Keir Starmer finds himself in a bit of a bind with the unions over the removal of pensioners' winter fuel payments. So who is running the Labour Party? Unelected union bosses or elected Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer? In the interview, at 23, Big Brother winner Anthony Hutton's life changed for good, taking home a whopping £50,000 prize with his cheeky, charming personality. He captivated viewers, but all that glitters isn't gold. And Anthony found himself down a dark path of drugs and alcohol. He'll be here to tell us his story. And what have the Home Office got to hide? As a watchdog has ruled that the cost of furnishing flats for asylum seekers cannot be released because the issue is too sensitive. Surely the public should know what their money is being spent on. And a young man finds himself in what looks like a tidal sewer. But what happens next? Before we get started, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you very much and good afternoon. The top stories. Sir Keir Starmer has been meeting with his Irish counterpart Simon Harris as part of a commitment to reset relations between the UK and Ireland. The pair are in Dublin this afternoon and have been sitting down with business leaders from across the country. It's expected that trade across the Irish Sea will be top of their agenda, with that relationship worth an estimated €100 billion every year, as well as supporting thousands of jobs.
It's a pleasure to be here, to have this opportunity, which we will take, to renew the friendship between our countries. That reset, I think, can be meaningful, it can be deep. Of course, it covers the relationship between our two countries. Obviously, it has to cover the Good Friday Agreement, and I take very seriously our joint role in relation to that, and I've been very clear about that for many, many years, and renew that commitment here today. And the wider EU reset.
Police searching for a British man in Mallorca in the same area where a British woman was found dead earlier this week have found a body. The Spanish Civil Guard have said they believe the pair had been swept away in a flash flood after a storm hit the Mediterranean island on Tuesday. Emergency services have been searching the area since Wednesday after they rescued 10 hikers and recovered the body of a 26-year-old woman. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has paid tribute to the legacy and devotion of the late Queen Elizabeth II ahead of the 2-year anniversary of her death tomorrow. Sir Keir has said a new memorial, which will stand at St James's Park in London, will give people a place to honour the late Queen and connect with the shared history we cherish. Britain's longest reigning monarch passed away peacefully on the 8th of September 2 years ago at Balmoral Castle. In other news, a Royal Navy serviceman who was killed when a helicopter made a deliberate emergency landing over the Channel on Wednesday has been named as Lieutenant Rodri Lation. 3 people were on board the Merlin NK4 during a night exercise when it ditched off the Dorset coastline, killing the 31-year-old. A statement from Rodri's family described him as talented, passionate, strong and loyal. The SNP has called on the Prime Minister to U-turn on plans to cut winter fuel payments. Research has shown that close to 1 million pensioners in Scotland received the payments between 2022 and last year. But under new plans by the Labour government, 87% of those would lose that financial support. More heavy rain is expected across the UK today, with many still at risk of flooding. The Met Office has said a new band of heavy and thundery rain will arrive on the south coast today and will make its way north overnight. It says some places could see up to 100 millimetres of rain, and there was a risk of power cuts and flooding and cause difficult driving conditions. In sport, Britain's Jack Draper has crashed out of the US Tennis Open after being sick 4 times during his semi-final. The British #1 had hoped to emulate the likes of Andy Murray and Emma Raducanu by taking the title, but he was ultimately beaten by Yannick Sinner. Draper cited issues with anxiety as the reason for his exit from the competition, describing it as the worst feeling ever.
I had chances here and there and I didn't take them, and obviously when you play the best players in the world you need to do that. And yeah, I obviously wasn't feeling my best and struggled at certain periods of the match, especially towards the end. But you know, Yannick beat me fair and square. He was too strong for me today.
And in just over an hour or so's time, England will take on Ireland in the UEFA Nations League. And this will be the first test for England's interim manager Lee Carsley, following Gareth Southgate stepping down after defeat in the Euros final this summer. Carsley has faced criticism after he said he won't sing the national anthem tonight, although the former Ireland player says he's respectful of the concept. Elsewhere in the competition, Wales faced a goalless draw last night against Turkey, and on Thursday night, Scotland suffered a 3-2 defeat to Poland, whilst Northern Ireland beat Luxembourg 2-0. And it's been another brilliant day for Team GB so far at the Paralympics. We started the morning on 100 medals, and that number has now grown once again with a further 3 golds, 2 silvers and 2 bronze for the British team, including a win for Finlay Graham in the men's C13 road race. And those are the latest headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Tatiana. It's fast approaching 8 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. The problem for Sir Keir Starmer is the problem the Labour Party has always had. The unions are in charge. Before the election, Labour convinced the electorate that things could only get better. Remember Rishi Sunak standing in the rain? Oh, an image I'm sure must haunt him. Dee Ream's "Things Can Only Get Better" in the background. Tony Blair's campaign track in 1997. When Labour actually got into office, it became things would only get better, would get worse before they got better, and that those with the broadest shoulders will carry the heaviest burden. Really? So why target pensioners? Why remove their winter fuel allowance? 10 million pensioners will lose up to £300, and that includes those with an income of just 13,000 So far, Keir Starmer, the Labour Party, have given out bumper pay rises, capitulating to the unions, claiming ending strikes would get the country moving again. Transport Secretary Louise Haigh approved a 14.25% pay deal for train drivers over 3 years without any concessions on reforming and modernising the system. She just handed out the cash, which meant that for many, their basic pay went from 60k to 69. Pretty broad shoulders. Junior doctors were offered a rise of 22% on average over 2 years, inadvertently incentivising other trade unions to make demands too. Who's next? While salaries in these industries may not have kept up with inflation, nobody's salary has kept up with inflation. Inflation was in double figures. In the private sector, you'd be told to take a running jump making those sort of demands. But pensioners who have worked all their lives now at the latest stage, most don't work and many can't. How have they got the broadest shoulders? Those with the broadest shoulders will carry the heaviest burden. That's what Keir Starmer said.
But I will be honest with you. There is a budget coming in October, and it's going to be painful. We have no other choice, given the situation that we're in. Those with the broadest shoulders should bear the heavier burden.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they keep banging on about a black hole. Well, let's be clear. Part of that black hole funding gap is due to the very generous settlements that they've given to the unions. The unions are major donors to the Labour Party, and that is, of course, how the party began. So it should come as no surprise that they were satisfied first. But the problem for Labour comes with history, and history has taught us that the unions, when the unions take over, the unions are turning on Sir Keir Starmer. 3 trade unions, in fact, Unite, USDAW and the PCS, that's the union that represents civil servants, are calling for Labour to change course. They're demanding that Keir restores the winter fuel allowance for all pensioners. Ms Heathcote, the most senior figure of the PCS, said, "We deal first-hand with pensioners in receipt of winter fuel payments. We know how much they rely on them. If you take those payments away, people will have to make really hard decisions about heating their homes and eating." Exactly. And in PMQs, Rishi Sunak accused Sir Keir Starmer of choosing well-paid rail staff while stripping the winter fuel allowance from pensioners.
Mr. Speaker, government is about making choices, and the new Prime Minister has made a choice. He has chosen to take the winter fuel allowance away from low-income pensioners and give that money to certain unionised workforces in inflation-busting pay rises. So can I just ask the Prime Minister, why did he choose train drivers over Britain's vulnerable pensioners?
Mr. Speaker, this government was elected to clear up the mess left by the party opposition and to bring about the change that the country desperately needs.
Yes, but those with the broadest shoulders, you said, would carry the heaviest burden. Whilst Keir and his fellow MPs like Rachel Reeve, who arrogantly announced the winter fuel policy without the necessary consultation, and she even doubled down, they may think that they have a carte blanche to run roughshod with their 158-seat majority. But the unions are their real masters on winter fuel, on that allowance. And on this matter, I actually agree with the unions. Those with the broadest shoulders should carry the heaviest burden, and it's not pensioners. The question is, though, who is running the show? The unelected union bosses or Keir Starmer and his elected party? I do like a bit of a ramble. But before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. Calls to sack England's new manager as he rules out signing and singing the national anthem, at today's friendly against the Republic of Ireland. Lee Carsley admits that he struggles with singing God Save the King after playing football for Ireland dozens of times. So for the British debate this hour, I'm asking, and also coming up, what do the Home Office have to hide? A watchdog has ruled the cost of furnishing asylum seeker flats is too sensitive to be released, but what are they hiding? Then, in the Pulse, have you ever wondered what it's like to have transparent skin? Well, no, I don't think I've ever wondered about that, but new research by scientists may have a temporary transparent substance which will allow us to see our organs and how they function. And could Ozempic-style weight loss pills within 2 years help the nation get back into shape? Should Sir Keir Starmer, Sir Ian McKellen, be stripped of his knighthood with the anniversary of the Queen's death taking place tomorrow after? What do you think? Anyway, that's all coming up. In Clipbait, a young man finds himself in what looks like a tidal sewer. But what happens next? That's coming up in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Post your comments. Tell us your thoughts at gbnews.com/your say. Right, let's get started. Let's welcome again to my panel political commentator. I hope you understood that. I didn't know what any of that meant. I didn't read it. I didn't write it. Heads will roll. Lynn May, thank you very much. And also human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Right, so let's talk the Labour Party. Who's in charge of the Labour Party? Now, I don't disagree with the unions here. They are right, because in particular the PCS, they look after civil servants. They know civil servants who will run the pensions and so on. They know the troubles that pensioners are going through.
Yeah, it's absolutely diabolical that Labour talks about, change, looking after the people who are in difficulty, and then whacks this decision to deprive poorer pensioners of the winter fuel allowance. Now, look, when it comes to who runs the Labour Party, it's clear the Labour Party runs itself. And I think the allegations about the unions is a bit much because, the Conservatives are run by or funded by investment bankers, racist IT bosses, hedge fund managers and so on. They've produced all this funding for the Tories. The amount the unions give is very small. It's a voluntary donation by their members. They're just seeking to look after themselves. The real issue is we can plug the deficit, the black hole, with something else. And the simple solution is a 2% tax on people with more than £10 million in assets would raise a staggering £24 billion.
You're having a laugh.
Completely cover the black hole.
Lovely, but they're all running away.
No, they're not.
Scared.
They're
They are.
not.
And in fact, they are.
They
are. This is the thing.
The figures we have.
No.
The figures we have.
Which figures?
Well,
which figures?
From Spain and the Scandinavian countries. When they imposed wealth taxes, the number of people who left the country was 0.01%.
But they're already leaving.
Tiny.
Yeah, but those are in another
leaving.
country. Do the figures in this country and you'll find that they actually are leaving. So it's all very convenient using figures from a Scandinavian country. Why don't you use the ones from this country? They are leaving.
Yeah, we've already seen an exodus of millionaires leaving already, and the amount of millionaires that have already said that they're going to leave if there are these harsh tax imposed according to them, they can leave. The problem is we will not be able to dictate to them because the wealthiest in society are the ones that can live freely wherever they want. And the ones, millionaires, they pay a lot already. They pay a lot in VAT. And if they go, then the middle class that are not that wealthy, even though people that are going to have to fit the bill. But I completely agree with you that the winter fuel, the pensioners, he said in his speech, Keir Starmer says, it's those with the broadest shoulders. Pensioners clearly do not have the broadest shoulders. As you said, Nana, they've worked hard all their life.
Exactly.
And I've spoken to so many of them, I've listened to so many of them, and they feel really, really betrayed. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Labour Party are out of here very quickly.
I mean, what on earth was he thinking? And listen, the reason I ask who's in charge of the Labour Party is because the first thing they did was give the unions, stop all the strikes and give a load of money to the unions, and other unions are now thinking about striking, and hopefully they're hoping to get more money. But then now the unions have come out and said, look, Keir Starmer, we're not supporting this. So I'm glad they've come out for this.
Yeah.
But it does show you that the Labour Party, whilst he might have a 158-seat majority, those unions have a lot of power. You say they don't. It's a small amount of money, but that they contribute, but they have a lot of power.
Well, clearly the unions haven't got power.
Well, they have.
Because Keir Starmer is saying he's going to stick to this decision about the winter fuel.
Well, the vote will say otherwise.
They're having a vote on Tuesday.
And let's see some of his own MPs. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I just think this was a poor decision. I do think the unions have more power than you're suggesting. And for the simple fact, let's look at train drivers. Already the majority are on 60,000. That's more than a lot of public sector workers, private sector workers. The average salary in this country is around 34,000. So for them to be bumped up to almost 70,000, how is that even fair?
They clearly have some of the broader shoulders. These broader shoulders that they were talking about, I'm presuming it's people who are paying a lot of the higher rate of tax, and those on 69,000 will be in that remit. So
they will be.
You're giving
They'll
them
be in the top 10%
to take money from them in tax, which is all very well, but at the end of the day, you're also taking from pensioners. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
does it?
I agree.
Absolutely
that
ridiculous.
Those with the broadest shoulders should bear a fairer burden, and the broadest shoulders are people with more than £10 million in assets, or the 171 billionaires in Britain, all of whom whose wealth is increasing at between 5 and 10% every year. So to pay an extra 1 or 2%, they won't lose anything. They just won't gain as much as they would have without that tax. They can afford it.
All right, well, you say that. They're leaving. They aren't leaving.
I take to paraphrase Spider-Man, those with greatest wealth have greatest responsibility.
Yeah, and that's all very well, but they are leaving. They're not tolerating this.
Where's that evidence of them leaving?
There is actually, and I'll find you. There's a bit of research actually that shows, and that's in this country.
I haven't seen that research.
No,
I'd be happy to see it.
That came out today, so we'll furnish you with that. But I want to talk about this because obviously the football match is coming up later on, and joining me, football writer Harry Harris, who was in Dublin 29 years ago when these two teams met, with the game being abandoned after 29 minutes. Listen, what do you think of the England manager not wanting to sing the national anthem? Is it just a storm in a teacup? Are we being silly?
No, I think it has split opinion and has offended a lot of people. You'd want your English coach to be singing the national anthem, clearly. But really what we do want is a coach who can actually get a song out the team and get a winning team. That's most important. But we've had foreign coaches. Capello said, no, I'm Italian, I'm not singing the national anthem. Poor old Sven passed away recently. He tried his best to sing it, but he found it very tough to get round the words. We obviously, clearly, ideally want an English coach. We want him to stand up and sing the national anthem. But this guy played 30 times for Ireland. In the England team, we've got a couple of Irish players. I mean, we have diversity now in this country, and we have a blurred vision about what is actually English and what is Irish and what is everything else. So is it really that important? Is the national anthem still relevant? Is it an archaic relic of the past? Should FIFA abandon all national anthems because it can evoke violence, it can evoke trouble? Rival fans boo the national anthem. Is it worth having?
Is it worth having? Good question. We'll leave it on that bombshell. Harry Harris, thank you very much. Lovely to talk to you. That is Harry Harris. He's a football writer. Right, what do you think, though? This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, what does the Home Office have to hide?
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Labour government wants to introduce a legal right not to be bothered so that staff can ignore bosses' emails and texts and calls outside of normal office hours, including holidays. It's all part of Labour's election pledge to give everybody a right to switch off for the first time ever. Mutaz, do you ever turn your phone off?
I don't. If you want to work in a high-functioning job that pays well in the end, you have to keep your phone off. The workplace is competitive. If you work longer hours, you're more likely to get a promotion.
It depends what job you do. We work in news, the three of us. News goes on all the time. It would be ridiculous to think that we could ever leave our emails or a phone call alone, because we don't know what's about to happen next. But say you're working in a clerical job or a manual job, if it's absolutely 9 to 5 and your job is over by then, there's no reason why you should be contacted by your boss except in an emergency.
Is that because people nowadays, they want to, they don't want to live to work, they want to work to live?
People are more relaxed about work. I'm able to come in here dressed like this. But when it comes to legislation, you've got to be careful because it leads to ridiculous situations. The Euros, when England was playing Spain, one of the Spanish footballers was 17 years old. I think the Spanish FA had to pay a fine because in Germany, a 17-year-old shouldn't work after 8 p.m. or something like that.
Because with me now is the head of employment at Pickering Solicitors, Joanna Robson. Joanna, thanks for joining us. Is it a generational issue?
Yes, I think there is a generational issue. I think younger people, they generally want to make a really good impression. So sometimes you find the younger workforce are the ones that actually want to really put their mark out there and they really want to work longer hours. And that's going to, it's going to be difficult for younger people to, switch off.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. Coming up to 24 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua, and it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, what does the Home Office have to hide? Questions are being raised about the Home Office's decision to withhold the cost of furnishing flats for asylum seekers. Now, the Information Commissioner supported the Home Office's refusal, citing concerns about the health and safety of vulnerable individuals. Doesn't really make any sense. However, critics, including MP Lee Anderson, argue that taxpayers have the right to know how their money is being spent and claim that the government is embarrassed by the high costs involved. Now, the Home Office justified the decision, pointing out to the potential risks of public protests and backlash that have previously targeted asylum seekers. But surely we have to know where the money is going. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, what does the Home Office have to hide? Well, joining me now, political commentator Lynn May and also human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Lynn May, I'm going to start with you on this. Look, it's a bit Do you think that the Home Office have a point that if we know how much they're spending, people might get a little bit angry?
People will get angry, but it just goes to show that they shouldn't be spending this amount. I work in housing and I work with British people every day that pay taxes, that struggle to, make ends meet. They struggle to furnish their homes, they struggle to pay their rent. And here we're seeing, and no government seem to be listening. Oh. Immigration has always been really high on people's agenda when it comes to the vote. So I think this is, it just highlights them withholding the information is a big enough thing to let us know that it's high amounts that they're paying and it's costing the taxpayer so much, and of course we've got a right to be angry.
It's like when I say to my daughter, "What's in the bag?" "Oh, no, nothing." "Oh,
yeah.
Nothing." She knows that what's in the bag is not a good thing in the bag, and she just wanted to show me the bag because she knows Mummy will be angry. And this sounds very similar. Peter Tatchell, am I wrong?
In principle, the public does have a right to know. We should be able to know how much the government is spending on asylum seeker accommodation. But in this case, it was an attempt to identify a particular hostel in Hampshire, which could have easily been a target for far-right extremists who, like in the previous riots, may have attempted to attack the hostel dwellers and even burn the place down. So on public safety grounds, that was the right decision to withhold that information. But the big issue, there was a way in which the British public doesn't have to pay a penny. The problem is that currently the Home Office bans asylum seekers from getting a job and supporting themselves. They want to work, but they're banned. If they were able to work, they could pay for their own accommodation, they'd pay tax, they'd pay national insurance, and they contribute to the economy. And then that's the way to solve the high cost of asylum housing.
But there'll be more of them. There'll be more of them. It's another draw, surely.
I also think it's a very negative message that sends out there. Yes, the channels of being able to come into the country have been minimised. However, those who come in on the boats are not coming in the correct channels. So if we now grant them the ability to live like all of us who have are legally here, I wasn't born here, my parents did the right thing in terms of how I was naturalised to come into this country like themselves. So that sends out a very bad message that they can just come in here. It also sends out a bad message to the gangs, where they are saying, as soon as you get there, you're going to get a job, you're going to be able to live like any other British citizen. How can that be a positive?
Well, they would not have a right to permanent residence. They would have a right to work while their asylum claim is being assessed.
We don't know if they are, though.
And if it was found that they were unlawful, illegal immigrants with no case, they would then be deported.
Peter, where would they work, though? Because as we don't know enough about them, that's why they're waiting to see if they qualify. What if they have had crimes in their country? Should they work with children? Should they work with young people, women?
Well, they would be assessed. Obviously,
we don't know, though. That's why.
There would be an assessment.
When,
and, of course,
when would the assessment be?
Letting them work would enable tabs to be kept upon them.
When will the assessment be?
Well, when they come in, of course, they should initially, if they come in illegally, they should be detained. There should be an assessment there. And then if they have no criminal record in their background, then they should be allowed to work.
But that's the processing
process. That is the process.
That is the processing.
It's taking a long time.
That is the processing process.
No, what's taking the time is to assess whether they have a legitimate claim for asylum. That's a separate issue.
But it's all part of it, isn't it?
So a safety check is one thing. Yeah, that's quite simple.
But no, it's not, though, is it? Because it's not that simple. Because working out whether someone is safe, you've got to look through all their records and everything else like that. I presume when you're working out whether they're safe, you'll also do the rest of the checks as well. So it doesn't really make sense that you'd have two sets of checks. Somebody comes in, you should do it all, and then you determine whether they're allowed to do all those things. Why should they be allowed to work before that?
It won't be quick, Peter. Like for myself, for example, I work in housing. Whenever I change organisation, I have to undergo an enhanced DBS. I'm a British citizen. I've been here since I was maybe a year. It can take me up to 3 months. So someone who's already here, they know all about me. You're saying it's just going to happen quickly. It's not.
It's not really.
Well, put it this way. I've helped many genuine refugees get asylum. They have to wait sometimes a year, 2 years, even 5 years, while the government pay for their housing, their benefits and everything. That was a complete waste because nearly all those refugees had skills that Britain needed. Things like doctors, dentists, plumbers, carpenters. They would be an asset to the economy if they were allowed to work.
But you're not
madness to pay for their housing, madness to give them benefits when they're willing to work and can contribute to the economy, pay tax and national insurance.
But you're not addressing the underlying point that Lynn May has made, which is that if you do that, then you are disincentivising people who are really valuable, honest people who've come to this country not via a dinghy or by illegal means. You're disincentivising them. And you're also incentivising the gangs who can send that message to people.
Come and get a job.
Come and get a job. You get a job as soon as you get it.
Peter, would you
only be temporary.
Peter, would you want a doctor? Would you want a doctor to administer to yourself without undergoing the necessary conversion by our standards here, the necessary training?
Yes.
We're not talking, 1 month, get into a job. We're still talking minimum 6 months to a year. And in that 6 months to a year, we're still going to have to pay millions for their accommodation. So we're back at square one.
But we get a solution after 6 months to a year rather than waiting at government expense, public expense, for 3, 5 or more years. That's madness. But there's got to be a speeded up process. We need more asylum adjudicators. That's true.
But isn't it even more crazy to allow people who you don't really know to be working in environments that you can't control? It could be around young people, it could be around vulnerable people, it could be around anyone, and yet they may turn out, once you've done your research, that they have a criminal record for murder.
Everybody who arrives in this country, illegal or lawful, has to undergo vetting by the Home Office. That's done quite quickly, and those who don't meet the criterion are put in asylum accommodation.
How quickly? You're saying quite quickly. How quickly is that?
Put in asylum detention.
Quite quickly. What is your definition of quite quickly?
Sometimes it can be a month or 2 months. Sometimes in extreme cases, yes, 6 months. But it's better that after that 6 months, once they've been vetted, that they work and pay for themselves.
Well, that depends.
Not the taxpayer.
That depends if you become a victim of some of these people. Now, not to say that all migrants are bad people. Most of them are probably very, very good. But the fact is, you don't know, do you? So to give them an ability to work and do all those things will incentivise others, and also you know nothing about them. But listen, the Home Office responded to the claim saying, whilst the Commissioner appreciates the public interest in the cost of providing accommodation used to accommodate asylum seekers, in his view, this is outweighed by the Home Office neither confirming nor denying whether it holds any information falling within the scope of this request. Well, that feels like a bit of a word salad, but that's the statement they gave us. 32 minutes after 4 o'clock, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. No, we didn't write that. Coming up, it's The Pulse. And could we see a Zempic-style weight loss pills within 2 years? And could they potentially do other things than just weight loss? But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you and good afternoon. The top stories. Sir Keir Starmer has met with his Irish counterpart as part of a commitment to reset relations between the UK and Ireland. They say coordination on security policy will be among the priorities of planned annual UK-Ireland summits. The Prime Minister and Irish Premier Simon Harris agreed the terms of the leader-level meetings as they held talks in Dublin this afternoon. The annual summits will focus on several key areas such as security, justice and global issues, climate and energy technology and innovation, growth, trade and more. A joint statement said their meeting marked the start of an ambitious programme towards a renewed and strengthened partnership. The first meeting will be held in March. In other news, a Royal Navy serviceman who was killed when a helicopter made a deliberate emergency landing over the English Channel on Wednesday has been named as Lieutenant Rodri Lation. 3 people were on board the Merlin Mk4 during a night exercise when it ditched off the Dorset coastline, killing the 31-year-old. A statement from Rodri's family described him as talented, passionate, strong and loyal. Police searching for a British man in Mallorca, in the same area where a British woman was found dead earlier this week, have found a body. The Spanish Civil Guard have said they believe the pair had been swept away in a flash flood after a storm hit the Mediterranean island on Tuesday. Emergency services have been searching the area near the Tramontana Mountains since Wednesday. And in around an hour's time, England will take on Ireland in the UEFA Nations League. This will be the first test for England's interim manager Lee Carsley, following Gareth Southgate stepping down after defeat in the Euros final this summer. Carsley has faced criticism after he said he won't sing the national anthem tonight, although the former Ireland player says he's respectful of the concept. Elsewhere in the competition, Wales faced a goalless draw last night against Turkey, and on Thursday night, Scotland lost 3-2 to Poland, and Northern Ireland beat Luxembourg 2-0. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's turning increasingly unsettled yet again across England and Wales. Some heavy showers, some thunderstorms developing, and just turning a little chillier as well. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, bringing this unsettled weather right through Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday as well. And that showery rain is also affecting coastal areas already this evening, but as we head into the early hours, it becomes more widespread across England and Wales and pushes northwards. Torrential downpours possible, and Met Office warning out for heavy rain, but dry across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern and Western Scotland. Some clear spells here overnight. Temperatures 14-15 Celsius. Under the cloud and heavy rain around 16 or 17. So a muggy start to Sunday, but some torrential downpours across England and Wales first thing. There could be some disruption. A quieter start to Sunday across Scotland. Some low cloud though, mist and murk across the north and the east. Some drizzle in there too. Best of the sunshine across central and western areas. Quite a cloudy start for Northern Ireland too. Thick enough for some drizzle. But it is across England and Wales where we've got heavy rain and thunderstorms. Some potential disruption first thing, and some brightness across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, but here as we go through the day we'll see some thunderstorms developing. Some longer spells of rain possible for parts of Wales, the West Country as well. So do stay tuned to the forecast as we go through the next 24 hours, as there could be some disruption. Generally staying dry for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Temperatures here cooler than recent days, 17-18 Celsius. Best of the sunshine, 22 or 23 Celsius towards the east and southeast. And then through into the evening time, those thunderstorms continue. They do also produce some heavy rain across southern and eastern parts of Scotland as we end the day, generally staying dry for Northern Ireland. The outlook is for it to generally remain unsettled, but turning unseasonably cooler as we get towards the middle of next week.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 39 minutes after 4 o'clock. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? No, welcome. Nana Nicey is here, Nana Akua, and this is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. It's time now for the Pulse. And researchers at Stanford University have discovered that a common food dye can temporarily make skin, muscle and connective tissue transparent in living animals by applying the dye to areas such as a mouse's abdomen or scalp, with scientists clearly able to observe the internal organs and blood vessels. But could this be valuable for humans? Also, we'll be chatting Ozempic, but joining me now is pharmacist Thorin Govind. Right, let's talk about this new discovery. What is this? It sounds amazing.
Well, Stanford University, they've done some research and they found this common food dye, and this is used in some ingredients, some tortilla chips, and also in a very well-known orange food drink. And what they've done is they've got a paste of this food dye, and then they've rubbed it on the bellies of mice. That then makes the blood vessels easier to see. It turns the skin, I'm going to say translucent rather than transparent, because it's not completely that you can see everything. But that means that they're doing a lot more tests, and there's a long way to go. But if you think about cancer treatment at the moment, you know, you have to go for a biopsy. It's really unpleasant. It can take a lot of time. We've got NHS backlog, so it might take you time to get that biopsy. So this has the potential to speed up the ability to find issues. And I don't know about you. Have you ever been to get your blood? They've had to draw out blood. Have you ever
I've had loads of that. But my question is, how dark are these rats?
Well,
because if you're really dark, right, like me, although I'm the lightest in my family, I will add, not my immediate family, but my brothers and sisters. But if you're really dark, it's not...
Be allergic to this. So they've got to make sure that they've got the dose of this right, and it won't be available for everyone. But ultimately, we're still in the rat stage here. We're still looking at how it's dealt with in animals. It's a little while to go before we're going to be able to use it in humans.
Well, it's great, though, when we find simple things that we've been using over a period of time that actually have another function that could be really useful for us without doing very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but I hear as well, at the end of the trial, they killed these rats or something. It was just very sad.
Well, they do use, you know, they have to use mice. They have to use some of these animals, unfortunately, in trials, and that's not unusual. But I think, obviously, there's a lot more ethics now around using animals in trials, as you know.
Although I say that and have a little mousetrap. I shouldn't say... I know, it's terrible. But anyway, look, so moving on, Ozempic. Now, normally you would inject Ozempic, but now it could potentially be in a pill form.
Yeah, they've got quite a number of drugs in trials at the moment in oral form, which, you know, some people might not like using an injection, but this could change the game, really, when it comes to weight loss. But what I would say is that cautionary approach, because I think people have got quite excited about semaglutide, which is the ingredient in Ozempic and in Wegovy. So the only... Wegovy is what we use for weight loss. That's the brand name. And then Ozempic is for diabetes. Right. And what we need to be really careful is we don't get too excited, because we've got to wait to see how these develop in clinical trials. But I've been keeping an eye on those drug companies that are developing these drugs, I would be saying.
Oh, yeah, they want to develop that really fast, because the quicker they can do it, the more likely it is that they can then start selling it. And if they can sell it, they can make a lot of money, because obviously that sort of drug is very popular with people who have been fighting a losing battle with their weight for many years.
Yeah, so they're in phase 3 trials at the moment, so they're looking at the safety and efficacy of them. I think 2027, late 2026, there's going to be a lot of these drugs potentially coming on the market. Wow. So not long.
And is there any truth to... So some of the other things that we hear about Ozempic or semaglutide, the thing that's inside it, is that it can help with, you know, cardiovascular issues, arthritis, they're coming out with all this. Is it not just simply the fact that you've lost a load of weight, so therefore you're less susceptible, or is there some other thing?
OK, so, I mean, obesity is costing the NHS billions each year. I think the fact is that it will have some benefits, losing weight. There's still a lot of research to be done, though, in those other conditions. So what they're saying now is it could impact our biological ageing, basically. So there's still work to be done on that. But I think we still need to be doing the exercise. We were just talking about our favourite forms of exercise, weren't we? I mean, I love a Zumba class.
I used to teach Zumba.
Did you?
I still do it every now and again on my Facebook when I was in COVID and everything. So I did Zumba. So I'm a Zumba instructor, but I love hot yoga.
That's what, exactly. Whereas I like a high-intensity class. So maybe I need to do a high-intensity and then we'll do some yoga later.
To be fair, yoga is muscular strength and endurance, which is the type of thing that burns fat when you're resting. So it's actually slightly harder than cardiovascular exercise. But cardiovascular, heart and lungs, very good, you see.
Got to do a mix, I think.
Keeps
the brain surprised as well, I think. Doing different forms of exercise is always good.
All right, Thorian Govind, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. She's a pharmacist. Those are her thoughts. What are yours? GBNews.com/you'll say. I will read some of those those comments in just a moment. But you're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up in the next hour, our Great British Debate, and I'm asking, why is Labour MP Jaz Athwal still knocking around?
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Would you have Harry back with open arms? And this is Ian. Hi, Ian. Harry is unfortunately not well. He's an emotional wreck. Ian, you actually took the words out of my mouth. I remember when I was younger, queuing up for hours for West Ham tickets. I'm that sad. But at least I got the ticket. It was my ticket. They knew it was me, and there were no touts involved. It's Forever says Harry can stay away. He was so quick to condemn this country as racist and to trash the Queen and royal family's reputations. He should be banished and his titles removed. He has not earned the right to call himself anything with a royal title. Ooh, passionate. Since moving to the US with Meghan, the American dream has had a number of issues for him, I think it's fair to say. But if Harry was to return, would he be welcome? And could he make it up with William? Look, if Oasis, sorry I said the O word, have done it, can William and Harry?
Well, I think it's going to present a lot of challenges. I mean, I've got to be clear here. When it comes to reconciliation, if it's possible, obviously, to mend the rift with William, clearly that is to be welcomed. But as for Harry returning, what precisely would that mean? What precisely would Harry want? Because if it is in any sense a return to royal duties, you really got to be very, very careful with what you're dealing with. As far as the royal family are concerned, for goodness sake, reconciliation, yes, but actual work as a senior working royal is not, in my opinion.
So I always think it's quite funny listening to serious people talk seriously about the royals, because it's not that serious, a lot of it. But actually, I think where I'm fascinated by them is that we can sort of see a bit of ourselves as a society and as individuals.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
47 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. Now, before we get started, the next images come with a flash warning. So it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should Sir Ian McKellen be stripped of his knighthood? Now, Sir Ian McKellen has sparked controversy after accusing the late Queen of being rude and quite mad in her final years. The acclaimed actor made the remarks in a recent interview, recalling an exchange with the Queen during which he found her tone dismissive. Some royal experts have suggested that if Mr McKellen feels so slighted, he should consider giving back his knighthood. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should Sir Ian McKellen be stripped of his knighthood, or perhaps he should simply hand it back? Political commentator Lynn May and human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell join me to discuss. Peter Tatchell.
Well, Ian McKellen said that when he received his knighthood, the Queen made a dismissive remark, does anybody still go to the theatre? Didn't praise him for his years of acclaimed acting and his many awards, but made that throwaway remark, which I think was quite insulting.
But he still kept the knighthood.
Well, the knighthood wasn't given by the Queen; it was actually given by the state. The Queen merely conferred.
But she does. But he could have. But ultimately, we know that. But obviously, he could have said, "No, I don't want to be knighted now. I don't want to be part of this. This is what you're like."
Well, that happened the knighthood happened 2 decades ago or more.
Yeah, but he could pass it back, though. I mean,
yeah.
if he's going to complain.
But it wasn't in her gift. She was the ceremonial bestower. That was all. But I think, just going back to what she said, it does sound a bit off to not make any remark about you've done a great job, well deserved.
If it's
instead
true.
say, does anyone go to the theatre?
But why wait till she's no longer here to come up with this particular comment? Because there's no one that can challenge him.
I'm going to have to agree with Peter. I think, you know, it's like, I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, I received a degree at university. The university was horrible to me. The person who gave me the degree was horrible to me. I'm not going to give back my degree. I want my degree.
But at what point would you complain to the university? Would you wait till the university and professors were all no longer with us and complain, or would you not complain at the very beginning when you hear this comment?
Well,
Why
you
would
you could
do
see
it
this.
later?
You could see this as, you know, on both sides. Maybe he should have said it where she could defend herself. We all know that the Queen is a figurehead that shouldn't be able to have the power to be able to speak against things. So I think he did it in a respectful way when she's actually gone.
Well, so she can't defend herself. I don't think
she
that's
wouldn't defend
respectful.
herself, though.
She might do, or somebody, or the palace aide.
It's not proper for the Queen to have such opinions.
Yes,
we know that.
She may come out with recollections may vary, which would she be brave with his?
That would be from the palace, not her.
Well, yes, but that would be ultimately from her if she didn't think.
But what about freedom of speech, Nana? This is his freedom to do it when he wants.
Nobody's saying that, but you question why. If this is true, why he waits to the death of the person before he even says anything?
Maybe
if you're not happy with it, you can say it ages ago.
I think he was prompted to make some remark, but as a side, I think Ian McKellen is a person of great honour and integrity. I don't think he'd make something up.
Well, you may...
And releasing this information, you know, he did it just as a factual report.
Well, he should have maybe kept his mouth shut then, or perhaps hand back his knighthood. This show's nothing without you and your views, though. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. Let's have a chat with John Reid in Kidderminster. So what do you think, John Reid? Is it fair to be saying that? It almost feels like you're sort of speaking ill of the dead. She's not here to defend herself. Why is he speaking up now?
In my world, Nana, Sir Ian McKellen should not be stripped of his knighthood for the very simple reason that, well, there's no reason to strip it. What he said has made himself look silly in the public's eyes, I think, and it's done himself more harm than he's ever done the Queen, and the Queen's not even still alive. So, yeah, we've got a system of knighthoods and etc. in this country that is in many ways envied by the world. So I don't think he should be stripped of it. No, let sleeping dogs lie and leave him alone.
Well,
just ignore what he's saying. It has no real value, does it?
What about if he hands it back then, if he thinks that of her, and he's upset that she didn't ask him the right question?
If he chooses to, that's entirely up to him. It would be his loss, wouldn't it? It would be some advantage to be called Sir Ken. I would like to hear Sir John Reid one day. That would be lovely. I wouldn't be handing mine back.
Well, I'd like to hear Dame Nana Akua. On that bombshell, John Reid in Kidderminster, thank you very much. Yeah, you see, I'm kind of with John in that. Yes, there's obviously you all have freedom of speech to say whatever you like. But at the end of the day, if you've been given an honour and then you're not happy with the question or the way somebody said something when you were given that honour, she may have asked, do people still go to the theatre anymore? She may not know. She doesn't go to the theatre. She's the Queen.
It does sound a bit off, but you know,
but if it's true,
not actually praise him for the great work he's done. The other
so what's the knighthood then? Isn't the knighthood the praise? Can I just ask you? Isn't the knighthood the praise?
Well, yes, but normally she does make some pleasing remark about the person. You're a hero. You rescued someone in the Thames. You know, that kind of thing. You know, that's what we normally expect. You know. Fair enough, she may have just had an off day, and let's not hold that against her. But the other issue is people with knighthoods have done far worse. What about the big corporate bosses who fleece pension funds, who are pumping sewage into our rivers? They can still keep their knighthoods. They're much more deserving of having their knighthoods taken away.
Well, listen, I'd agree with you. I don't see why they should have knighthoods, and in fact, I would fine the water companies their entire value, and I'd buy them back for £1 and nationalise them. That's what I'd do. I don't believe they should be ever privatised because you can't really decide where your water comes from. It's not really a competitive thing, is it? So it's not really even open to competition. And also, they've been fleecing the taxpayers and not investing back into the water business at all. Peter Tatchell in May, thank you very much. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next, The Interview. I'll be joined by winner of Big Brother 6, Anthony Hutton, and we'll hear his story as to what Big Brother, the impact it had on his life. But first, let's get your latest news with Craig Dewhurst.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's turning increasingly unsettled yet again across England and Wales. Some heavy showers, some thunderstorms developing, and just turning a little chillier as well. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, bringing this unsettled weather right through Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday as well. And that showery rain is also affecting coastal areas already this evening, but as we head into the early hours, it becomes more widespread across England and Wales and pushes northwards. Torrential downpours possible, a Met Office warning out for heavy rain, but drier across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern and Western Scotland. Some clear spells here overnight. Temperatures 14-15 Celsius. Under the cloud and heavy rain around 16 or 17. So a muggy start to Sunday, but some torrential downpours across England and Wales first thing. There could be some disruption. A quieter start to Sunday across Scotland. Some low cloud though, mist and murk across the north and the east. Some drizzle in there too. Best of the sunshine across central and western areas. Quite a cloudy start for Northern Ireland too. Thick enough for some drizzle. But it is across England and Wales where we've got heavy rain and thunderstorms. Some potential disruption first thing, and some brightness across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, but here as we go through the day we'll see some thunderstorms developing. Some longer spells of rain possible for parts of Wales, the West Country as well. So do stay tuned to the forecast as we go through the next 24 hours, as there could be some disruption. Generally staying dry for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Temperatures here cooler than recent days, 17-18 Celsius. Best of the sunshine, 22 or 23 Celsius towards the east and southeast. And then through into the evening time, those thunderstorms continue. They do also produce some heavy rain across southern and eastern parts of Scotland as we end the day, generally staying dry for Northern Ireland. The outlook is for it to generally remain unsettled, but turning unseasonably cooler as we get towards the middle of next week.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good luck. Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's Live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's Live here on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. This is coming up to 5 o'clock. Hello and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me in the next hour, human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell and also political commentator Lynn May. Next, it's been revealed that Ilford South MP Jaz Athwal was renting out flats with ant infestations and black mould. He also hadn't paid certain licensing. It was his scheme as well. Is he fit to be a Labour MP? You'll hear the thoughts of a lawyer and where he stands legally next. In the interview at 23, Big Brother 6 winner Anthony Hutton's life changed for good, taking home a whopping £50,000 prize. Cheeky, charming personality captivated viewers, but all that glitters is not gold, and Anthony found himself down a dark path of drugs and alcohol. He'll be live to tell us his story. And I'll be testing my panel's knowledge on the big stories this week. Coming up, though, in clickbait, a young man finds himself in what looks like a tidal sewer. But what happens next? Before we get started, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you. The top stories. Sir Keir Starmer has met with his Irish counterpart as part of a commitment to reset relations between the UK and Ireland. They say coordination on security policy will be among the priorities of planned annual UK-Ireland summits. The Prime Minister and Irish Premier Simon Harris agreed the terms of the leader-level meetings as they held talks today in Dublin. The annual summits will focus on several key areas, including security, justice and global issues, climate, energy, technology and innovation, growth, trade and more. A joint statement said their meeting marked the start of an ambitious programme towards a renewed and strengthened partnership. The first meeting will be held in March.
Today is very much about cementing the reset of relations between our two countries that we've talked about in the last 8 or so weeks since I was able to form a government in the United Kingdom. And today we've just had a really good session where we've been able to agree the themes, some of the structures and the way that we'll take that forward, including a summit in March of next year and annual summits thereafter, all of which I think will provide a stronger foundation for the very many issues on which we collaborate and cooperate for the benefit of both our countries.
In other news, police searching for a British man in Mallorca in the same area where a British woman was found dead earlier this week have found a body. The Spanish Civil Guard say they believe the pair had been swept away in a flash flood after a storm hit the Mediterranean island on Tuesday. Emergency services have been searching the area since Wednesday after they rescued 10 hikers and recovered the body of a 26-year-old woman. A Royal Navy serviceman who was killed when a helicopter made a deliberate emergency landing over the English Channel on Wednesday has been named as Lieutenant Rodri Lation. 3 people were on board the Merlin Mk4 during a night exercise when it ditched off the Dorset coastline, killing the 31-year-old. A statement from Rodri's family described him as talented, passionate, strong and loyal. In other news, the SNP has called on the Prime Minister to U-turn on plans to cut winter fuel payments. Research has shown that close to 1 million pensioners in Scotland received those payments between 2022 and last year. But under new plans by the Labour government, 87% of those would lose that financial support. More heavy rain is expected across the UK today, with many still at risk of flooding. The Met Office has said a new band of heavy and thundery rain will arrive on the south coast today and will make its way north overnight. It says some places could see up to 100 millimetres of rain, and there was a risk of power cuts and flooding and could cause some difficult driving conditions. The Prime Minister has paid tribute to the legacy and devotion of the late Queen Elizabeth II ahead of the 2-year anniversary of her death tomorrow. Sir Keir Starmer said a new memorial, which will stand in St James's Park in London, will give people a place to honour the late Queen and connect with the shared history we cherish. Britain's longest reigning monarch passed away peacefully on the 8th of September 2022 at Balmoral Castle. In sport, Britain's Jack Draper has crashed out of the US Open after being sick 4 times during his semi-final. The British #1 had hoped to emulate the likes of Andy Murray and Emma Raducanu by taking the title, but was ultimately beaten by Yannick Sinner. Draper cited issues with anxiety as the reason for his exit from the competition, describing it as the worst feeling ever.
I had chances here and there and I didn't take them, and obviously when you play the best players in the world you need to do that. And yeah, I obviously wasn't feeling my best and struggled at certain periods of the match, especially towards the end. But you know, Yannick beat me fair and square. He was too strong for me today.
And England take on Ireland in the UEFA Nations League. That game just about kicking off, and this will be the first test for England's interim manager Lee Carsley, following Gareth Southgate stepping down after defeat in the Euros final this summer. Carsley has faced criticism after he said he won't sing the national anthem, although the former Ireland player says he's respectful of the concept. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Tatiana. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. For the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, political commentator Lynn May and also human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Still to come, black mould and ant-infested homes. Now the Labour landlord Jaz Athwal has sacked his property agent. London Mayor Sadiq Khan has said action should be taken against bad landlords, regardless of whether they're Labour MPs or just ordinary people. In the interview, I'm joined by 2005 Big Brother winner Anthony Hutton. We'll be discussing how he shot to fame and the challenges that he's faced along the way. Coming up in clickbait, a young man finds himself in what looks like a tidal sewer, but what happens next? That is coming up. Send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/yoursay. But first, London Mayor Sadiq Khan has called for action against bad landlords. Now, this comes as Ilford South MP Jaz Athwal was renting out flats with ant infestations and black mould. Now, Athwal, who introduced a property licensing scheme as Redbridge Council leader, admitted his own flats did not meet these standards. Here he is now with Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, speaking alongside Mr Athwal back in 2021.
I'm here at Fairlock Waters in Redbridge with Councillor Jaz Athwal, leader of Redbridge Council. It's been brilliant just meeting residents and people around and seeing the great work that Redbridge Council has been doing. Despite Conservative cuts and despite the unimaginable challenges of the pandemic, Redbridge Council has brought Labour values to life. They've been building homes, libraries and leisure centres. They've been protecting our key services.
So whilst he has apologised, that is Jaz Athwal, and sacked the agency managing the properties, there are growing calls for him to resign. Joining me now, barrister and writer Stephen Barrett. Stephen, thank you very much for joining me. So Stephen, I want to ask you first. So Jaz Athwal, he had about 15 properties. I think he had 15. 7 of those 15 didn't have a licence, as I understand it. Is he breaking a law? Because this was something that he introduced. Is he actually breaking a law?
Well, I don't want to definitively say that he was or wasn't breaking a law. I don't want to embroil myself in some legal mess. What I can say is that there are a huge ream of laws that apply to landlords in order to stop them acting in a rogue capacity. Before coming on the show, as you would expect, I've read the government's advice on it. It's 88 pages, and it's directed at local councils because it's the council's job to enforce these laws against rogue landlords. And Mr. Athwal ran his council. This is obviously important. And to show that I have no party political animus at all, I think the Mayor of London is right. The Mayor of London is a lawyer, and he's clearly standing up for the rule of law and saying that rules apply to everyone, regardless of their political background. And that is a very important principle to hold to. If we move to a position where rules don't apply to people if they belong to one party or another, I don't care which party it is, that will be a fundamental collapse in the rule of law, and that is a far darker thing for the country than even this. But I don't want to downplay this, Nana, because I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, there was an incredibly lovely little boy, and he died because of black mold. And I'm going to name drop, because I was very proud of him, but I was very proud of the barrister Christian Weaver, who managed to convince the coroner that and prove, he didn't manipulate the coroner, he got all the evidence, and he put it all in, and he proved that the black mold was the cause. Black mold kills innocent little boys and innocent little girls. This is not unimportant. Mr. Athwal, I understand it, is one of the largest landlords in the house. We are told he has sacked his agency, but all we're told about the agency is that it's a man called Raymond. I mean, Nana. And can I just say that if it was possible to just blame your staff, then does anybody remember that there were some parties in Downing Street that the civil service had? And do you all remember how we let Boris Johnson off that, and that's why he's still Prime Minister? I mean, that just simply isn't what happens. You are responsible for your staff. You are responsible what goes on under your watch. And, you know, this Labour MP at least warrants investigation, and his properties, you know, should be investigated. We cannot simply sweep this under the carpet. We had an incident again a few weeks ago where Labour MP Jess Phillips bragged about getting better treatment on the NHS because of who she was and because of her political views. That's outrageous as well. That can't simply be ignored. If we're going to drift into a country where rules don't apply to you because you're a member of the Labour Party, well then, I mean, I'm just going to keep saying that that's a breakdown on the rule of law. I'm going to sit in this library until I'm physically taken out of it, and I'm going to carry on saying it because it will be true.
Well, but Jaz Athwal, he's apologised, as did Boris, for the parties, although Boris lost everything pretty much in terms of his political career as a result of parties, that many of which he didn't attend. But Jaz Athwal's apologised, and the Labour Party have gone very, very quiet about this. If it were me or somebody else, this would apply to me. So what does that kind of say about the Labour Party? They haven't said anything about this. This has gone very quiet. The whip hasn't been removed. Something needs to happen, surely.
Well, yes, something needs to happen. And I'll take you to the more important constitutional principle, Nana, because I've been worried for a while that we're becoming a very infantile society. And actually, our constitution works on the idea that we're actually all grown-ups. And our constitution requires something of us. It often requires us, by the way, I was saying this to somebody yesterday, it requires us to volunteer. So it really needs us to sort of buckle up and get involved and roll up your sleeves, as I've done today, and you know, get your arm in and actually do something. But it also requires all of us purely as citizens to be grown-ups. That means we can no longer listen to a 24-hour media narrative. We can no longer have the outrage of today that tomorrow we forget. That's how children's cartoons operate. And we cannot live like children's cartoons. We're going to have to remember from day to day the different outrages. You know, we're going to have to keep banging on about them. I'm quite proud of you, Nana, that you wanted this story brought up, because I fear a lot of journalists would have said, oh, it's old hat now. And that we simply cannot live that way. If you live like that, you are living like children, and that is against what our constitution expects of us. It expects us to be active grown-ups, to go, hang on a second, this is a bit rum. Now, don't go too far. So the other danger is immediately implying that people are definitely guilty, finding them guilty, you know, by trial by social media, and getting carried away. One of my other bugbears is that if an investigation happens, and I'm not talking about this specific case, but there are other cases involving Labour politicians where there are pending actions, you must then stay quiet. That's what you must then do, because justice must be allowed to be done. Everybody's entitled to justice, and we must see that done too. That's also what I call part of being a grown-up, in our society. But I think we're going to have to remember how to be a grown-up. I think we've spent many, many years, myself included, being self-indulgent. I mean, Nana, you could argue that my hair's self-indulgent, but, allow us some small joys. But in order for our constitution to function, in order for our society to function, rules must apply to Labour MPs just as they apply to Conservative MPs. Outrage must apply to Conservative MPs and Labour MPs equally. Justice must be done. Rules must be enforced. That's what we require.
So what do they have in their arsenal as punishments for this sort of breach? Are there... Because there must be things... So, for example, if I'm a bad landlord, what is it that I could face? Because if you don't have a licence, what punishment could you face?
Well, I adore you for asking me that question. So if everybody Googles the road landlord enforcement by the government, and then they'll get this document, and if they go to page 25, it's all really conveniently set out for them in a chart. So there's powers under the Housing Act 2004. There's 6 powers under that act. There's one under the Environmental Protection Act 1990. There's one under the Energy Performance of Buildings, England and Wales Act 2012. I actually think there's also one under a new act that came out last year that this isn't up to date with. No, I don't think it is. So there's another one, and there's a power under 2025 regulations and a power under the 2016 Planning Act. We have built a society with lots and lots of law. Actually, I argued yesterday, and in some ways we do have too much law, but what that means is we have lots of good laws that we could enforce if we want to. Now, it's for the relevant council to enforce these. So we're going to have to trust this council, which this gentleman just ran, to investigate and to consider using its powers. Now, I want to live in a country where we can trust that council. And I don't think I can say anything more than that.
No,
sorry.
Stephen Barrett, thank you very much. It was really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for all of that. It's very insightful indeed. That is barrister and writer Stephen Barrett. See, that's the thing. If you're going to give out these licences and these laws, then surely as an MP and also the councillor, because as Stephen said, it was the council that were in charge of ensuring the licences were taken up, and Jaz Athwal was the head of the council. There has to be some sort of action, and obviously I don't know what should happen to him, but my thoughts are that this is by-election territory. But lots of you have been in touch with your views. Elizabeth says, regarding illegal migrants, because we were talking about what should be done in terms of processing, I've always said, how do you assess them without papers or passports? These people are not irregular, they're illegal, and if there is not a serious crackdown on the situation, this island, then it all will become out of our hands. The government and previous ones have no idea how many of these people are on our island. Now, I'm with you, they don't really know, do they? Remember that time 17,000 of them went missing? I mean, that's literally no good, is it? Keep your thoughts coming, gbnews.com/your say. Oh, somebody's... that's not very nice to Peter. Somebody's started to be quiet. People are asking lots of questions. Keep them coming. gbnews.com/your say. With regard to the English, the national anthem, Hav Jones says, just seen lineup of England singing national anthem. A lot of people think Lee Carsley has got that wrong. But anyway, stay tuned. gbnews.com/your say. Next, it's the interview. I'll be joined by Big Brother winner Anthony Hatton telling me about how the fame ran out and how his life changed.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Luis Elizondo says that he worked at the Pentagon and that he knows that they have recovered material that is not from this Earth. He resigned after believing his government wasn't taking the threat of UFOs seriously. So have they been covering up alien material from us?
I don't think the claims that are being made in Luis Elizondo's book, Imminent, are new, but I think what we have to pay attention to is the seniority of, one, Luis Elizondo, and two, the people who recruited him, and indeed the people he worked for, which was the Department of Defense and the Pentagon.
You think that he was in a position to know about this?
Yeah, he would have been. He would have been speaking to the individuals who were taking part in these investigations. You're showing some of those clips just now that potential incursions by objects controlled by a non-human intelligence, potentially. We're not saying alien necessarily, but something non-human.
Seems a bit far-fetched to me, Andrew. I'm a sceptic.
When people say sceptical, I think as a species, we're relatively new in terms of what we do in space. But right now, we've got a robot on Mars that drives about and has a little helicopter drone that every so often comes up, flies about away 10 feet from it to collect samples and comes back. Now, a species a couple of hundred years down the line from us would have far better technology than that. So who's to say what we're encountering aren't just really advanced probes from something else that's just slightly ahead of us in the technological scale? I don't think that's too far stretch of the imagination.
When you do see things like what we just saw there, which was made public, the New York Times did a big expose on all of this, and actually, you know, the world didn't end. We weren't all outside fighting each other for scraps of food and burning down the nearest Lidl, were we? We just thought, oh, that's quite cool.
I think now we have to look at it and maybe take a step back, look at the people coming out now, talking about UFOs and thinking, is there something to this that we've maybe been overlooking?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 21 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Lots of you have been in touch with your thoughts with regard to the things we've been discussing. Jack says on the England managers, never mind managers singing or not singing national anthems. I'm questioning whether we even need national teams. I hear you. I mean, I doubt they'll win. Don't be horrible. Benny says, oh, come on, you can't expect an Irishman to sing the English national anthem whilst playing Ireland. And on Keir Starmer, Craig says, someone needs to call Starmer an ambulance. He's clearly lost his mind. And on Ian McKellen and the Queen, David says, so an old actor said the Queen was a bit iffy with him and a bit mad. Well, he's probably a bit iffy and mad. It's an age thing. Just ignore it and stop the pylon. Are you talking to me or talking to them? Right then, now it's time for the interview. Anthony Hutton, shot to fame in 2005 as the winner of Big Brother, the 6th series. He captured the nation's attention. He's charming, he's very cheeky, including his memorable hot tub moment with Makosi. Do you remember Makosi? Musambasi, I can't say her name, but I remember that. Remember that? And then she said that she was pregnant. That was great. However, after his £50,000 win, fame proved fleeting and Anthony struggled with the pressures that came with it. He fell into a destructive cycle of drink and drugs and ultimately leading him to contemplate suicide as he grappled with the emptiness left after the spotlight faded. But today, Anthony has turned his life around, using his experience to help others and runs a mental health retreat, focusing on mental well-being and helping combat male depression. Through his work, Anthony aims to provide a safe space for men to talk openly about their struggles, determined to make a difference. Now I've told you all that, what's the point of meeting Anthony? Now I'm pleased to say that Anthony Hutton joins me now. Anthony, lovely to talk to you. I remember that scene with Makosi. What went on? Come on.
You know what? It was 2005 when that happened, and it still blows my mind how often I still get asked that question. Yeah, we had a little fondle, and that was it. She certainly wasn't pregnant. I can put it that way.
Would it have been the immaculate conception if she had been?
I would have been extremely fertile if she got pregnant there. Yeah.
Really? That's not really answering the question.
Well, yeah, so to put it blunt, then we didn't have sexual intercourse then, if that's what you're if that's what you really want to know.
Yeah, that's what. It's not just me. It's everybody. It's we all want to know that. No, everybody wanted to know that question.
You know what? I done a talk last week, and it was like a mental health talk and well-being and stuff. And a woman came in the room and wanted to speak to me afterwards. And I thought she was going to ask me something serious, and she asked for what's happened in the jacuzzi. So yeah.
Exactly. That scene's followed you around. So the thing with these Big Brother things, so everybody wants to talk to you, everybody wants you on the TV, everyone wants to interview you. How did you cope with that? And then what happened from there?
So it was an absolutely unbelievable experience. I was actually a huge fan of the show, and I seen getting on Big Brother. The first time I thought about getting on the show was I was a postman. I wasn't particularly educated. I wanted to be a footballer. That dream didn't come off. And getting on Big Brother was, I seen that as an opportunity to change my life up. And it certainly done that. And the experience was absolutely unbelievable. In reflection, it was a huge, huge extreme taste of fame that I had, because I was a young, immature man who lived with my grandparents and my mum in County Durham. And the next time I moved out the house was in the Big Brother house. You know, I won the show. I was on the show for, I think it was 78 days, which is, you know, just under 3 months. And it wasn't like the TV shows now where they get to speak to producers, they get haircuts. This was literally cooked up in a house for nearly 3 months. To come away winning the show, won £50,000, came out with fireworks, everyone knowing my name. The next day was equally as crazy. I signed an OK photo shoot where I got £200,000.
Wow.
So it was a real extreme high and taste of fame, because it was, you know, from zero to hero. And you know, with that high, it had a huge low, because when it got to the point where I basically needed to get a job, and my ego, pride, paranoia, what people would think of me if I went and got a normal job, because for such a long period of time I was known as that's him from Big Brother, that's Anthony who won Big Brother. So I'd cooked up all of this up in my head, thinking, you know, I can't get a job. I built it up to be terrified and scared about getting a normal job. And, you know, like you touched on before, went down a dark path. Would I change anything? No, I wouldn't, because it's all those losses were lessons, and it's carved me to be the man I am now, and it's led me into setting up this amazing project that I've set up.
How long did it take for it all to sort of go bad? So from being, you know, hero to zero, how long would you say that period of time was?
You know what? I managed to capitalise on it for a good number of years. Obviously, the first year was the work was unbelievable, and the money was as well. Again, the second year, the third year, maybe the fourth year, things were started to kind of like get quiet, and then, you know, then it got to the point where I'm ringing the agent, no work's coming in. At this point, I'd moved back to the northeast, and it was probably more of a slow, gradual dwindle. And like I said, it's a hard thing to do, the reality TV thing, because back then there was no social media. So, you know, if you didn't have a skill set of presenting or acting or anything or singing, which I didn't, you basically had like a 15-minute window of fame. And then it was like, you know, you were back, like, you know, what do I do now? And for a little period of time, I deludedly thought something else would come up, and it never did. And, you know, like I said, when it got to the point where it looks like I've got to get a normal job now, that was extremely, you know, I'd cooked up in my head that was going to, you know, it was a big deal to me to do that. But, you know, once I got it was like anything. Nothing's ever really as bad in reality. Once you get back doing it, but yeah,
it's tough, isn't it? That's tough, isn't it? Having to go back.
But it was a fantastic experience.
So you've now set up your own kind of wellness hub. Talk to me about that. We've got about a minute left.
Right, okay, so it's called Never Throw in the Towel Project. There's something amazing happened. So the project's called Never Throw in the Towel, with the strapline "Keep on Living." Those were the words that I used right at the end of my grandma's eulogy, and that was describing her fighting spirit towards getting stage 4 cancer. A man in attendance who was at the funeral messaged me afterwards later that night, sharing with me that he'd been really struggling with his mental health, and he wanted to let me know that he's clung on to the words "never throw in the towel." That absolutely lit a fire with me, and it led me to I have to start talking about this topic. My role as a barber, I talk to men for a living, so I knew how bad it was, and I've got 2 sons myself, and this project, we are actively trying to tackle this huge problem.
So if people want to find out more about what you're doing, where can they go? What's your website? Have you got a website or something they can go to?
So it's Never Throw in the Towel Project, and on all forms of social media platforms, Never Throw in the Towel Project. We're on there. We throw monthly free retreats where we get gatherings, and we are soon to set up a charity once we become a charity, because we don't make any money from the retreats. Once we become a charity, our aim is to start these all over the country, getting men outside in nature, talking, walking, just doing all the simple things, which is all great for your mental health.
All right. Well, listen, Anthony Hutton, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me. It's good to see you. I'm glad I got that question answered. I've been wanting to know the answer to that for years. Anthony Hutton, brilliant. Well done, you.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
A pleasure. That's Anthony Hutton. He turned his life around. It's 31 minutes after 5 o'clock. Welcome. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GBNews Live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, we'll continue with our Great British debates. And I'm asking, in light of Jaz Athwal's controversy, why is he still knocking about as a Labour MP? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, but up next, let's get your latest news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nana, thank you. The top stories. Sir Keir Starmer has met with his Irish counterpart as part of a commitment to reset relations between the UK and Ireland. They say coordination on security policy will be among the priorities of planned annual UK-Ireland summits. The Prime Minister and Irish Premier Simon Harris agreed the terms of the leader-level meetings as they held talks in Dublin today. The annual summits will focus on several key areas such as security, justice and global issues, climate, energy, technology and innovation, growth, trade and more. A joint statement said their meeting marked the start of an ambitious programme towards a renewed and strengthened partnership. The first meeting will be held in March.
Today is very much about cementing the reset of relations between our 2 countries that we've talked about in the last 8 or so weeks since I was able to form a government in the United Kingdom. And today we've just had a really good session where we've been able to agree the themes, some of the structures and the way that we'll take that forward, including a summit in March of next year and annual summits thereafter, all of which I think will provide a stronger foundation for the very many issues on which we collaborate and cooperate for the benefit of both our countries.
In other news, a Royal Navy serviceman who was killed when a helicopter made a deliberate emergency landing over the Channel on Wednesday has been named as Lieutenant Rhodri Latham. 3 people were on board the Merlin Mk4 during a night exercise when it ditched off the Dorset coastline, killing the 31-year-old. A statement from Rhodri's family described him as talented, passionate, strong and loyal. In other news, police searching for a British man in Mallorca in the same area where a British woman was found dead earlier this week have found a body. The Spanish Civil Guard say they believe the pair had been swept away in a flash flood after a storm hit the Mediterranean island on Tuesday. Emergency services have been searching the area near the Tramontana Mountains since Wednesday. And England have taken the lead in their UEFA Nations League tie with Ireland. Declan Rice with the opener just 11 minutes in. And this is the first test for England's interim manager Lee Carsley, following Gareth Southgate stepping down after defeat in the Euros final this summer. Carsley appeared not to sing the national anthem ahead of the game, a decision he'd announced already yesterday. And although he did so, the former Ireland player said he's respectful of the concept. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. I'll be back in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's turning increasingly unsettled yet again across England and Wales. Some heavy showers, some thunderstorms developing, and just turning a little chillier as well. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, bringing this unsettled weather right through Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday as well. And that showery rain is also affecting coastal areas already this evening, but as we head into the early hours, it becomes more widespread across England and Wales and pushes northwards. Torrential downpours possible, a Met Office warning out for heavy rain, but dry across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern and Western Scotland. Some clear spells here overnight. Temperatures 14-15 Celsius. Under the cloud and heavy rain around 16 or 17. So a muggy start to Sunday, but some torrential downpours across England and Wales first thing. There could be some disruption. A quieter start to Sunday across Scotland. Some low cloud though, mist and murk across the north and the east. Some drizzle in there too. Best of the sunshine across central and western areas. Quite a cloudy start for Northern Ireland too. Thick enough for some drizzle. But it is across England and Wales where we've got heavy rain and thunderstorms. Some potential disruption first thing, and some brightness across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, but here as we go through the day we'll see some thunderstorms developing. Some longer spells of rain possible for parts of Wales, the West Country as well. So do stay tuned to the forecast as we go through the next 24 hours, as there could be some disruption. Generally staying dry for Northern Ireland and Scotland. Temperatures here cooler than recent days, 17-18 Celsius. Best of the sunshine, 22 or 23 Celsius towards the east and southeast. And then through into the evening time, those thunderstorms continue. They do also produce some heavy rain across southern and eastern parts of Scotland as we end the day, generally staying dry for Northern Ireland. The outlook is for it to generally remain unsettled, but turning unseasonably cooler as we get towards the middle of next week.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Sunday nights on GB News. From 6, Neil Oliver. At 7, it's Free Speech Nation with Andrew Doyle. At 9, Mark Dolan. And at 11, get set for the week ahead with headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
38 minutes after 5 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It's time now for another great British debate this hour. I'm asking, why is Labour MP Jaz Athwal still knocking around as an MP? Now, it comes as London Mayor Sadiq Khan called for action against bad landlords, and one of which is the Ilford South MP Jaz Athwal, who was renting out flats with ant-infestations and black mould. Athwal, who introduced a property licensing scheme as Redbridge Council leader, admitted his own flats did not meet these standards. I think 7 of them did not have a licence. Now, whilst he had apologised and sacked the agency managing the properties, there are growing calls for him to resign. Well, let's get welcome again to my panel, political commentator Lynn May, and also human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Lynn May.
Now, because he set the bar so high with regards to creating these licences, he was almost the beacon of, you know, what a perfect landlord should be in his estimation. That's why he created these licences.
Well, he's head of the council at the time, and the council's managed the licences.
Exactly. So that's why there's absolutely no excuse. However, I will say this, having worked with properties, I'm a landlord myself, I deal with legal disrepair. I don't like the way how when people hear black mould, it's, oh my God, bad rogue landlord.
No, it really
It's not always the case, though. There is, in law, in Britain, you have to have notice as a landlord to know that. Even myself, I wanted to regularly do checkups on my tenant every 3 months. They said it's a bit much. I said, no problem, every 6 months. I went there at the 6 months, they had black mould. Now, imagine if you would have walked in there, or, you know, a reporter would have walked in there and seen the black mould, I would have got it in the neck. I said, what's happening?
But the difference with this is that these people have been complaining repeatedly to the managing agents, OK? So this isn't a case of a landlord popping in and saying, oh, my goodness, I didn't know about the black mould.
But then,
nobody told me.
If there's a managing agent, if there's a managing agent which has signed a contract, a legally binding contract to say we take full responsibility of the property...
No, they don't take full responsibility, they take management responsibility.
Which is dealing with the repairs.
The landlord has full responsibility to fund the repairs. So if a managing agent, as you well know, says that there's mould and this and that, it's down to the landlord then to pay for those repairs. OK,
well, if the managing agent made aware to Athwal, you know, there's black mould and he did nothing about it, then there's obviously no excuse.
And it's not just him, there were others who knew about
Has he said, I was fully aware and did nothing?
What he has said is he's profoundly sorry.
OK, so he admitted to it?
He hasn't admitted to it. He said he's profoundly sorry.
Why would you apologise for something you haven't done?
The management agents. He has said he's profoundly sorry. He has not confirmed that he was aware of it. In fact, he's just saying that he's sorry. Peter Tatchell.
Rogue landlords should be prosecuted, whether they're MPs or not. Not about your party, it's not about being an MP. Rogue landlords, full stop, should be prosecuted. It's against the law. They need to answer.
Well, he has said that he'll work to fix the issues, but the other question is with regard to the licences. That he, as the head of the council, set these up.
Yeah, that makes it worse.
And the council will manage them, but they never went to his own properties.
The thing that's frustrating for me is when Labour MPs, I've heard all week, when Labour MPs are asked on this, they always dodge the question, you know, should he still be an MP? What should happen? Should he lose the whip? All these questions, and they seem to dance around it. Now, if that was a Conservative MP, we would never hear the end of it. So it's like these double standards with regards to Labour and Conservative is what frustrates me.
But I don't think suspension or withdrawing the whip, that's not the issue.
He needs to be
if it was unlawful, he should be prosecuted.
Do you think... Well, we did speak to Stephen Barrett to get his thoughts on whether it was an actual legal issue, and there are plenty of things in law that protect the tenants against rogue landlords, which is exactly what Jaz Athwal, even if he didn't know about it and all this, ignorance is no excuse. You can't get out of things by saying, I don't know, I wasn't told about it. The bottom line is he was head of the council at the time the licences were set up. The management agent will come to him for money for the licences. As you well know, I've had management agents looking after property that I used to have. So I don't see how he can get out of it. But what's worse is the silence of the Labour Party.
No, what he has apparently done, or not done in this case, goes against Labour's commitment to better standards of housing. So quite clear there's a contradiction there, and Labour should be calling it out. Labour should be speaking out, even though it's one of their own MPs. If he's done wrong, he should answer for it.
And fair play to Sadiq...
And Labour should condemn him.
And fair play to Sadiq Khan, he has also condemned it. But that's because Sadiq Khan has worked very closely with regard to air quality and air pollution. And there's, of course, that very sad story about that young boy who died because of black mould. So, you know, something needs to be done about this. He shouldn't get away with it, right?
No, he absolutely should not get away with it. As I said, he set such a standard with these licences, head of the council, and we do have an issue with disrepair across London stock at the moment, across English stock. So something... He can't just continue. He can't just continue as a... Because then also that gives rise for many other landlords. Hang on a minute, we've got an MP in Parliament. Why are you holding me to a standard and he's still there?
And it's not as if Jaz Athwal was poor. He had, apart from his MP salary, he had, I think, 7 properties?
15.
15
properties.
Yeah. He could have afforded to get them in order.
Well, it was 7 of them that didn't have... I think it's 7 that didn't have licences.
Yeah.
And that is... It's just not acceptable, is it?
No.
So we're expecting something from the Labour Party about this, but they are very good at sort of trying to talk about something else and bring something else onto the table when really we would like to see some punishment. But what do you think? GBNews.com/you'll say. Get in touch. Coming up, my quick fire quiz where I test the panel on some of the stories that caught their eye this week. That's on the way.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Meghan Markle is finding it very, very difficult to recruit staff for her lifestyle brand, which is called American Riviera Orchard. There's a mouthful for you. Apart from a jam gifted to influencers earlier this year, the brand is yet to launch any products.
Well, let's speak to our US royal and showbiz reporter, Kinsey Schofield. Good morning to you, Kinsey. Who's going to want that gig?
I mean, there are rumors that Netflix has said, allow us to manage the retail strategy. If she can't manage to find a CEO or somebody willing to work with her, Netflix sees an opportunity there.
To be an influencer, people have got to want to be like you. Do people like her?
I mean, this has been her biggest issue in the last few years, is realizing that there's been a shift when it comes to their popularity. Harry and Meghan believed their own hype when they said on that Netflix series that the reason they were ostracized was because they were much more popular than the British royals. They were more popular than Prince William, more popular than Princess Kate. And their popularity has declined immensely. And now they are desperate to win people over again.
Most people have to be liked or admired, and I put it to you, Kinsey, she'll have difficulty on both fronts.
Netflix is not going to renew this contract. I mean, they are fearful that this cooking show, this polo show, will not connect with the audience. And now they want us to believe that Meghan is at home cooking all this banana bread and having her best friend Chrissy Teigen over for scones. People aren't going to buy it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, so it's time for the quick fire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories that are hitting the headlines right now. Joining me, political commentator Lynn May. Press your buzzer, please, Lynn. And also human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Your buzzer, please. And please play along at home. Right, make sure you buzz in only when I finish the question, otherwise you won't get the point.
OK.
Right.
Maybe.
Question 1. What country said that they would consider using facilities of the UK's Rwanda scheme?
Estonia.
Sweden.
OK, you could have had this a lot easier because I would have done the multiple choice.
Germany.
Hang on, wait. Is it A? It's not the end of the question. France. I knew this would happen. We knew this would happen. Is it A, France, B, Italy, C, Germany?
Germany.
Did you press your buzzer?
Yeah.
Did you just say Germany?
No, he got it from me. It's Germany.
All right, you can have that, Peter Tatchell.
OK, fine.
Sorry, Lynn May. But I had to take your first answer anyway,
Okay.
which was wrong. Right. Question 2. The answer is, of course, Germany. Germany would make use of facilities funded by the UK to process some asylum seekers in Rwanda. There you go, eh? Right. True or false? Question 2. James Cleverly was the first Tory candidate to be knocked out of the Conservative leadership.
Oh, sorry.
Didn't finish.
I've started, so I'll finish. Leadership race. Lynn May.
False.
You said it's false? Peter
False.
Tatchell. False. course, the answer is false because it was, in fact, for a throwaway point.
Priti Patel.
Yeah, you can throw that away. Yeah, well done. Priti Patel, you're absolutely right. Former Home Secretary Dame Priti Patel was the first contender knocked out. 1-1. 1-1. Right, closest answer wins. How many gold medals has Team GB's most decorated Paralympian, Dame Sarah Story, won in her career? Peter Tatchell?
30.
Push your buzzer, don't speak until you press that.
27.
27. The answer is 19 gold medals. So, Lin May, you take that point. Yes, the answer is 19, picking up 2 in Paris this week. There she is on the screen. Yeah, so it's 2-1, Lin May. Right, open question. Ticketmaster's pricing for Oasis tickets is under investigation, but what average is the resale value of these tickets? What is the average resale value of the tickets? Come on.
I have to guess, £500.
£500. Are you crazy? Who'd pay that for that? Lin May, press your buzzer. Come on.
350.
350. Be yourself, 350, hardly. Crikey. What? It's suggested to be around £650 per ticket. Peter Tatchell, you take that. But if you've missed one more or anything like that, then don't worry, because they're doing 2 more gigs or something. Well done, Peter Tatchell, 2-2.
I was still 150 out, but...
You were still 150 out. Final question, multiple choice. Where are mafia bosses relocating to in the UK? Is it A, Maidstone, B, Woking, or C, Margate? Lin May?
Maidstone.
Margate.
Margate. The answer is... it doesn't say. Answer is B, actually. They said B, but they don't say what it is. So it's Woking. Thank you very much. B, Woking. Okay. So you're both completely wrong. Okay. That is a tie. It's a tie break. Well done, both of you. Very good. But now, it's time for clickbait. I've been teasing this all show. Let's have a watch. Let's tease a little more. A young man finds himself in what looks like a tidal sewer, but what happens next? There he is. Lin May, what do you think?
I think he gets washed away.
He gets washed away. Peter Tatchell?
I think someone throws him something and he grabs onto it.
Someone throws him something and grabs onto it, or somebody has thrown him something and grabs onto it. Let's have a look at the rest of the clip. Roll the clip. He catches it. He's hanging on. Look at that. Oh, somebody pulls him up. Will the person on the top there remain? He comes up. He's got one hand up on there. Is he going to fall in? What about the guy above?
Yeah, the guy above
holding him up. And then, look what happens here. Wow, amazing. The guy on top now, he's standing up at the top of this thing and actually pulls him over. But does he fall in? Does anybody fall back into that? No. He hangs on the side. That's the end of the clip. He pulls him out. Would you do that for a friend? I don't have any friends. Coming up, though, on today's show, I've been asking, should England manager sing the national anthem? What do you think, guys? Should he?
No.
And do you think?
It's his choice.
It's his choice. Well, according to the Twitter poll, 82% of you said yes, 18% of you said no. Wow, well, the match is still on. I'm wondering what the score is. It's already 1-0. But I don't think I'll be watching it. I'm not really into football. It's 2-0 now is the score. I can tell you that. But don't go anywhere. Lin May, when are you coming back? Are you coming back? What are your plans? You got something nice planned? You're looking like a zebra today.
I know. I'm going out to eat, to dinner.
Oh, we love a bit of food.
Yeah.
And Peter Tatchell, thank you very much for your company. What are you up to?
I'm going to go home and work.
You're going to go
on human rights.
On human rights. What, any particular rights you can tell us about? It's all very silent. Well, listen, lots of you have been getting in touch with your thoughts and views. There's so much more here on GB News. I've got to say thank you very much to political commentator Lin May and also human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. On the way, the Saturday 5 is up next. They've got a very exciting panel and loads of the top topics that we've been talking about. Have you enjoyed it today? It's
been brilliant.
You were late there with me.
I know. You keep on saying Nana. Have you never been late?
Not for this, not for my own show.
Oh, OK. I do apologise.
In fact, the answer is
I'll make it up to you.
You make it up to me. Thank you very much. Listen, finally, your final thoughts on my monologue I did on Keir Starmer and whether the unions are taking control of Labour. Can we trust them? What do you think?
No, I think it's going to be a lot worse. And now he's opened the floodgates and everyone's going to demand more money.
Do you think?
Yeah.
And who's in charge? The unions or Keir Starmer?
The unions are simply representing hard-pressed, ordinary working people who deserve a better deal, given all the inflation of recent years and the cost of living crisis. The unions defend their members. That's their job. I support them.
So do you think Keir Starmer will reverse, U-turn his decision for winter fuel pensioners?
I don't think you have a choice.
No, yes or no?
He should. He absolutely should. Whether he will, that's an open question.
That is an open question. We'll get an answer pretty soon. Tuesday, the unions meet. We'll hear what Keir Starmer had to say. Thank you so much to all of you for your company. It's been a pleasure as ever. Up next, it's time for the Saturday 5, hosted by the one and only Darren Grimes. Grimes. That's what I call him. But I'll leave you with the weather. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place, 3 o'clock. Be there or be square.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's turning increasingly unsettled yet again across England and Wales. Some heavy showers, some thunderstorms developing, and just turning a little chillier as well. Low pressure in charge of our weather at the moment, bringing this unsettled weather right through Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday as well. And that showery rain is also affecting coastal areas already this evening, but as we head into the early hours, it becomes more widespread across England and Wales and pushes northwards. Torrential downpours possible, a Met Office warning out for heavy rain, but drier across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern and Western Scotland. Some clear spells here overnight. Temperatures 14, 15 Celsius. Under the cloud and heavy rain around 16 or 17. So a muggy start to Sunday, but some torrential downpours across England and Wales first thing. There could be some disruption. A quieter start to Sunday across Scotland. Some low cloud though, mist and murk across the north and the east. Some drizzle in there too. Best of the sunshine across central and western areas. Quite a cloudy start for Northern Ireland too. Thick enough for some drizzle. But it is across England and Wales where we've got heavy rain and thunderstorms. Some potential disruption first thing, and some brightness across parts of East Anglia and the southeast, but here as we go through the day we'll see some thunderstorms developing.